warm welcome to you on what is turning out to be a dullish day. Still got a little bit of shadowing, as you can see. And these guys, well, they're doing their best to leave their shadows behind. They are being pursued at the moment. It is Demarchi of Cannondale and, of course, Tony Martin as well. I say, of course, because it was a bit of a target for him today. He's been on nursing duties with Kwiatkowski. The focus might be changing within Omega Pharma after yesterday, where Kwiatkowski actually had his problems. As you can see, there are 8 pursuers after them, and a pretty handy bunch they are as well. Spilak from Katusha likewise has been busy trying to look after Rodriguez, who may be looking after himself today. We also have Monteguti of AG2 Le Mondial. He's nearest to you on your screen right now. Pierre Roland is here. A man who blows hot and cold, but this could be an on day for him and indeed Europcar. Kemenet, he's got a teammate with him and they're at the front, both of whom are capable of doing something on a day for the breakers. Daniel Navarro, Nico Ede, both from Cofidis in the red, now pairing up at the back, which closest to our cameras. And we have Machado as well from Team NetApp Endura. We are heading through this verdant countryside, and with the twists and turns of the road which characterize the day, as well as all of the climbs, absolutely made for a breakaway. So we've got that leading pair, we have 8 behind, and then we have a pursuing group of 19 with the peloton 2 minutes and 5 adrift. Hope you're keeping tabs. It has been frantic at the start of the day. 25 riders were hopefuls that went off early, unfortunately including some who were too high up the general classification. And so Nibali and his boys were yet again on policing duties. Didn't do them too much good yesterday. Nibali looked a bit second-hand by the end of the day and was looking for excuses and blamed a bad selection of gear. Contador himself coming across the line, actually half thinking he'd actually won the day. But of course it is our wearer of the polka dot jerseys, Belkadri, who took it in fine style. Now we've seen Tony Martin go long before. Can he possibly go long again? Well, it will be a very long day for him with 117.9 kilometers remaining. They've done 2 climbs so far. The opener was a category 2, then a category 3. We have a selection of climbs on this day, and indeed some that contain climbs within them. Normally we just talk about little downhill sections, but they are proper climbs within the mountains in this part of the world. It is beautiful here, and it could be a great day for those with ambitions to be part of a breakaway. And you're looking at a whole raft of talent at the moment that is, well, sailing away. 2 minutes and 3. I guess because of the time gaps that have been thrown up in the general classification, they might have their fun. There has been a big sort out early on, and those that were a threat were wound back in. It was never going to happen. And 25 was too big. 2 probably too small. But then again, one of them happens to be Tony Martin, and he's climbing reasonably well. He's been the man that's been powering into the climbs to try and look after Kwiatkowski, while the young rider is now still, or now proper, I should say, the holder of the young rider's jersey coming into today. Peter Sagan yesterday actually said he took it easy. Once he missed the break, he thought, I'm not going to burn myself out trying to catch them. And so we thought that maybe it would be a Sagan kind of day, but he's 2 minutes and 5 behind with the big GC names back in the chasing pack as we stand. And so, will it be a day where the breakers make it? We think so. They're still busily forming it, I've got to tell you, as we head towards Mulhouse or Mulhouse, depending on whether you're Franco or Germanic in this Alsatian part of the world. It is beautiful. It does feel very old-styly. Riquevier is where we're looking at right now. Luckily everyone's been sensible with the matches over the years because it's largely made of wood. We'll see as well whether anybody's feet are made of clay today. Some big names have started to be found out. Remember the excuse from Contador the other day when he said he just had gear selection problems on the cobbles? We thought he was basically just looking after himself. Yesterday he helped himself along with his team when Astana started to fade. So, Sean, we've got a breakaway. We have some pursuers. They're at 38 seconds, and there's a lot of quality out there. It could be 28, could be 30 men up the road, and we have some riders who are more than capable of making this stick today on a breakers day.
Well, it's been a very aggressive day. They've raced very fast from the beginning. We've seen in the earlier part a big group away trying to get away, but a number of riders there. Two dangers in the general classification. It was closed down very quickly. I think they got about 25 seconds maximum maybe, and it's just been going on since that moment. And we have these two leaders, and then we have a group of 8 chasers, and then the next chasing group between the 8-man group and the peloton, let's say, there's a big group in there as well. So 20 riders they're talking about. We haven't got names, numbers to all of them, but the racing is aggressive, and this is a difficult one for Yellow Jersey to control the race with so many riders out in front. For Astana, it's going to be a difficult time to control it for the moment and just get a bit of calm back in the peloton. And can they go to the cam, because we see the riders that are up there. There's too many riders for my liking. I think they will try and close it down. Certainly this second group chasing the 2 men out in front, they're going to have to try and close that one and just allow them 8 men out in front. That would be controlled, but when you allow a big group, well then you have numbers up front and so difficult to manage.
Sean, yesterday Nibali just started to look a little bit fallible. Contador looked incredibly comfortable. Astana have been on policing duties for quite some time. They're doing it again today. Nibali finished alone. Some of his teammates took a tumble. Goodness me, this motorcycle is getting possibly just a little bit too close for my liking and has been ordered away, which is good. Pierre Roland following the motorcycle line, getting it just slightly out of shape. But he's up for it today. Just back to the Nibali point. Have they been forced to do too much at this point?
Well, of course, when you have the yellow jersey in the earlier part of a big tour, and in this one especially, the way the racing has been very nervous, as is pretty normal in a big 3-week tour, to control the brakes going away and to hold on to the yellow jersey. It has been a very energy sapping and a very demanding week for Astana. The problem is there's so many riders close in general classification. You have almost 150 riders to manage and to watch and not allow get into a breakaway, and that always becomes difficult. And then you take the aggressive race, and Astana are definitely paying the price here. And yesterday it was a surprise to see Nibali very much isolated in the very end. Fuglsang was the one which we were expecting them to be very much to the front, comfortable yesterday, because they weren't the team who really controlled it big time yesterday, because the breakaway was the one that suited. There was no man in danger in the general classification, but not looking good. Can they recover from that? We must remember as well, and we did mention yesterday, first day in the mountains, some riders take a little bit of time to adjust to that, and today we'll have to see how Astana will adapt to the more difficult terrain than we've had in the first week of racing.
It will be a big shakedown today. We've got a massive mountain day to come tomorrow, don't forget, which leads into the rest day. That'll come welcome to some. Those who are just refinding their form, it might be just a little bit too soon. It sounds bizarre, but some riders really like to just ride on. They'll be doing training rides, that's for sure, but competition is another matter. It's interesting to see who was lively early on, incidentally. Joaquin Rodriguez tried to get into the break, so maybe he has or is just coming right at this time, and he'll be one that really doesn't want to climb off the bike for a rest day, would like to continue competition. I think he'll come good towards the Pyrenees. These guys, Demarchi, well, he was always one who could go well, and indeed one of the pre-day favourites. And he's found himself up here with the big powerhouse that is Tony Martin, who seems to be turning himself ever more into a man capable of taking on climbs. These are not high Alps we've got today. There's just lots of them. And indeed we have one category 1, but then a long downhill and a run to the line. Could a time trialist make it count? Stay with us and find out. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. There's been a coming together of the two pursuit groups. We now have 28 riders, including a big threat with Tony Galopin, who is the Lotto Belsol rider, is only 3 minutes and 27 down overall. And so that's going to cause some nerves. It might well be that he gets told to get lost by those in the break if they're minded to have a go at Demarchi and indeed Martin, who are up the road. And here they are. A few moments ago we saw Tony Martin doing his amazing aero stunt. He rides Sagan styley, just comes off the saddle and crouches down, shoulders on the bars, and just it was amazing to actually watch Demarchi having to pedal to try and keep up with Tony Martin, who was basically getting free energy by just freewheeling down. So the 28 versus the peloton. The 28 are at 35 minutes. It's been listed as 27 now because Lars Bohm is trying to bridge over. We haven't got a time on Bohm at the moment, but we'll get one as soon as we can. 2 minutes and 5 is Nibali, Sagan, Contador and the rest. We're going through Turkheim, as you can see, and the stork is well known in this part of the world, and I guess we'll be going to John fairly shortly to find out more about that. But we're just trying to get a handle essentially on how this is settling down, and it has not settled yet. We have so many climbs to deal with today. It gets very punchy around about 75 kilometers to go. I'm not suggesting the day hasn't been so until that point, but well, we have climbs, intermediate climbs which aren't categorized, and it gets very, very lumpy. There's one sort of massive ascent, if you like, which includes 2 categorized climbs and one that is not, and it comes after the intermediate sprint, which itself is uphill. So after about 75 kilometers to go, you see the ticker on the top of your screen there which says 106.1. That's when the real meat of the day is going to be served up, and well, we'll see who feasts upon it, because once they crest with 43 kilometers to go, there's an intermediate mountain to be dealt with as well, but it's a zone of 22 kilometers of descending essentially, albeit knocked out by that kick up of 2, so let's call it 20, shall we, of downhill. If it rains, and there's a great possibility it will, Vincenzo Nibali will be offering up some prayers. I think they've been doing a rain dance in Astana yesterday. They like it when it's grizzly because Nibali thrives. It's about the downhill and the run for home, and the 21 kilometers of flat into Mulhouse. It gets pretty technical towards the end with roundabouts aplenty. The wind will also be a factor today. It's going to blow up a sou'wester according to the military meteo, and they're pretty reliable, saying it's about 40 to 45 kilometers an hour blowing in from the southwest. That'll be a crosswind for much of the last 21 kilometers in open country, and a tailwind for the final 3Ks, albeit within town, so it won't really have much of an impact, but splits might happen late on. So there you are, you've got the character of the day. It's a bit of a shark's tooth, but 1 category 1, 2 category 2s, and we still have 2 of those to deal with before the end. Category 3 sprinkled around the place, and indeed other climbs that, if it wasn't the Tour de France, would probably feature as a pretty stiff test in any other day. It is a test, Sean. It's one of endurance, but having your wits about you as well, and just making sure you're in the break. And plenty of riders have decided and have actually made it into exactly that. With Bohm, as we throw to Sean, 32 seconds now behind Demarchi and Martin.
Well, it's a day when the men who are a bit further down in general classification, you would expect them to go in the attack. It's a real difficult stage here today, but you know, a lot of riders want to get into the breakaway of the day. I suppose they're looking at yesterday and they feel that the breakaway could be allowed to get a big advantage, but the problem is with this one, we can see Galopin is up there and he is going to be the problem. Astana are going to have to control and keep tabs on this big breakaway, and if he wasn't there, you look at the general classification, there's riders you know, a bit further down, but still there's some danger men, so it's going to be a big day for Astana to control once again. You know, when you look at Europcar, for example, you know, they have Pierre Roland up there and they have 3 other riders, so they have a lot of manpower up there, and they're going to ride and push on to try and get Pierre Roland back into the equation, because he's lost a lot of time in the earlier part of this race. So it's all action out there, and as we can see, you know, it's Europcar who want to push on, not surprising, and back in the main peloton, Astana are working very hard here and going to have to keep the pace very high to just control the breakaway of the day.
They've got no choice, Sean. I think they'd probably prefer it to be, rather bizarrely, tomorrow instead of today. It's one of those days where they've not got a great deal to gain but plenty to lose, and I guess energy-wise they're yet again being sapped of it. You can see just hunting them down or staying out of the wind at the moment, and we have got plenty today. is Tinkoff Saxo. They did a great day of measuring their resources perfectly, it seemed, yesterday. Contador, for a moment, thought he was actually going for the stage win, according to the press. He admitted as much. But the great thing was we saw the two principal riders, as far as the favourites are concerned, Nibali versus Contador, going mano a mano, head to head. And we're going to have more of that, surely. But the efforts that Astana are putting in today, not being matched along the way by Tinkoff Saxo, and they don't have to, which is great for them.
Well, we did see yesterday Tinkoff Saxo really pushing on in the final 2 climbs of the day, and just really blowing the peloton apart. And we can see the way the riders were losing contact on the rear end, and as it went further on into the stage, that group of big favourites are getting smaller and smaller all the time. They did a real good job, and we were asking the question yesterday, would we see a bit of a battle? And we certainly see a battle yesterday with Tinkoff. They really made the race difficult. Nibali was isolated in the final, no teammates with him, and Contador, as you said, he was riding, he thought for the stage victory, but I think as he arrived to the line he realised that there was a man still out in front. But with all the confusion yesterday, the dangers, the sense, wet roads, I'm not surprised that it was difficult to keep track. And we did see the winner yesterday, Belcadre, a number of kilometres in the finish. We could see he had his earpiece out, so a lot of riders maybe have the same situation, not getting information from the car as they normally would. And but Contador, he showed the signs yesterday. Any opportunity at all where there's an uphill finish, he's going to try and pull back a number of seconds, and that's what he done yesterday, taking 3 seconds and putting Nibali under a little bit of pressure. Discussion this morning, the wrong gear change, or the wrong gear selection, let's call it. I think as a professional you should know what gears to use, and is Nibali just a little bit of difficulty in the final couple of 100 metres yesterday. But again, I think we have to give them benefit of the doubt, and the first days in the mountains I'd not take too much from it, but as I said, I think Contador is going to be a difficult one to manage in these mountaintop finishes.
I think you're absolutely right. He's got one tomorrow. Planche de Belfi looms. Some big losers yesterday. Michael Kwiatkowski was one of those, lost almost 4 minutes. Andrew Talansky found himself 4 minutes and 37 adrift. It hurt a lot yesterday, and I suppose in that regard Nibali can probably take some comfort. He doesn't have to thrash around for excuses. Others had far more cause to actually look for a reason why they didn't do well.
Well, it's the first taste of the real serious stuff, I suppose, and yesterday we had that. The first day in the mountains where you have to climb 5 or 6 Ks with a gradient of 7 or 8%. Some riders can adapt to it very well. The real big champions, the 2 riders, they can do it so well, but other riders need a day to get into it, and yesterday didn't get an easy day. If you get an easy day where they ride the climbs a bit steadier and it's not as aggressive, well then you get in that rhythm of climbing. Unfortunately yesterday, the way the race was going, and we did see when the breakaway had 10-11 minutes and the peloton just got really nervous because of the weather conditions going to the first climb of the day. They raced so aggressively, and I think a lot of riders paid the price for that further into the stage. I think we could see a little bit of a change today. Astana, maybe they might be able to be much more present in the final of this one today. They'll have to be, because Nibali needs his teammates, and after the final climb of the day there's a bit of terrain to go. There's quite a bit downhill, but then the last 20 Ks is pretty flat, so he will need teammates about him there.
One man who went very well yesterday was Richie Porte. It was, you might think, well, holding on to the coattails of Contador and Nibali while they had their fun. It was a very strong performance by Richie, and his team have been talking about how the fact he's absolutely loving the fact that now he is being allowed to take the step forward as team principal, obviously in the absence of Chris Froome, but he's got broad shoulders, and he showed yesterday that he can be a feature. And if he's one of those, Sean, that warms into the task, then expect to see Richie Porte functioning well during this tour.
Well, I think yesterday was a really good sign from Port, and in the general classification, he's still up there. And yesterday he put up a real strong performance, and if he can continue on doing that, staying close to Contador and to Nibali, he's in with a great chance of having a real strong performance. I think today we will see, or maybe more so tomorrow with a mountaintop finish, that's where we will see the real candidates for the top places, the guys who are going to win the race, the guys who are going to be on the podium, and the top 5. Tomorrow is the real test.
Come on, Bardet. He finished 9th yesterday behind TJ Van Garderen, significantly ahead of some bigger names. Rui Costa yesterday faded to 12th. Incidentally, Nicky Terpstra has been in the break, no surprise I guess, but 14th he finished. Pierre Rolland, has he been saving himself? Well, today he's got a good chance. He's up there towards the pointy end. He is part of the break. Lars Bohm, incidentally, has been caught by the 28 pursuers, but we still have 2 out front, Demarchi and Martin. And it looks like there's been a little easing, nothing too serious at the moment, but the peloton at 2 minutes and 35 from this pairing, but significantly are closer to the main body of what would be regarded as the main break, I guess, behind these guys. Although don't take it, don't take this lightly at all. When Tony Martin is in this kind of mood, don't forget he's been looking after Kwiatkowski. And has clearly, Sean, been given a bit of a free pass today to go and have some fun, because Kwiatkowski didn't have a great time yesterday. Tony Martin is renowned for going long. We've mentioned it previously, he did an amazing solo run in the Vuelta last year and broke so many hearts with his effort, caught I think with less than 100 metres to go, 125 metres perhaps to the line. It was a stunning performance. I wouldn't be surprised if everyone starts looking at each other and there's some big arguments about who's going to be in the break and the peloton chasing on, but they have a chance today. Although 2 men with 101 and all this climbing to go, it's a hard ask.
Well, first of all, Tony Martin, I think, if he was allowed to ride away with his breakaway companion Demarchi, it would be a perfect situation for him. And that final 20 kilometres on the flat, if he got into that, well, then he would just turn on all the turbos and he'd be a difficult man to live with. Unfortunately, with this big breakaway of riders chasing, and you look at the names we've got there, it's going to be difficult for Tony Martin to hold on out in front. And I suppose yesterday we were looking at the young jersey classification. Apologies, Kwiatkowski, and our Polish viewers, I said he was going to lose the white jersey classification. He did hold on from Bardet, and we did see Bardet coming in and finishing 9th in the stage, and Kwiatkowski finished a bit further out. I thought he was after losing too much to hold on to the white jersey, but he's after holding on by 13 seconds from Roman Bardet, and he'll be hoping, and Omega Pharma Quickstep will be certainly hoping that Kwiatkowski, it was his bad day over it and that he can go on from here. But as we see, up front our 2 are still working very well together, but that advantage is coming down with that very big group of chasers and some serious climbers here, and it will be interesting as we go to the real difficult one, the Grand Ballon. That is going to hurt a lot of legs, and I think there's going to be riders out of this group everywhere on the mountain.
I think you might need Grand Ballon as well to get over it intact. You certainly have, if you looked at today's profile, have to gird yourself, I've got to say. It looks horrible. However, there's worse to come tomorrow, I guess. Nice to see that Joaquin Rodriguez looked lively at the beginning of the day. I don't think he was actually working particularly for anybody else, just testing his own legs out and seeing whether he just happened to be part of a break. What has happened is, as we approach the 100 kilometres to go, we have 2 men. It's Demarchi and and Martin. Now, Demarchi is a reasonable climber, and he's very much the last man, or one of the last anyway, who's looking after Peter Sagan in the mountains. Sagan is renowned as burning his teammates, particularly when it comes to the peaky stuff. He'll just send them up there. And I guess Peter Sagan would have loved to have been in the break himself today. It's very much his kind of terrain. As it is, we have a pairing, and one of them happens to be Tony Martin. They could do it. It's not unheard of, and especially when you've got this pair, very high quality, you know, don't back against it, let's put it that way. Well, no, not too many helicopter shots, and those that we have had have been picking out cranes and storks and that sort of thing. John, in this part of the area, in this part of the of France and indeed the world, storks play a big part for some strange reason.
Well, that's right. The stork's been a long time visitor to these parts in order to nest. But back in between 1960 and 1974, the stork population in Alsace dwindled from 148 pairs to just 9. They were the victims of drought and disappearance of the meadows and general habitat. As a consequence, they started the Association for the Protection and Reintroduction of Storks in Alsace-Lorraine, and they opened a stork reintroduction centre, and now you can see many of them around. We watched one in flight a little earlier on in the stage, and in sort of the springtime you can see the chimneys of the Alsatian houses bedecked with storks' nests in their chimneys, and the storks lay around one egg every 2 days, up to a maximum of 4, and then the parents sit on the eggs, hatch after 33 to 34 days, and the young storks fly after 60 days. There's a little bit of wildlife info for you.
There you are. Thank you very much. Apparently, with the change in methods of heating, the temptation of using chimneys has ebbed. Chimneys are getting much smaller. They generally tend to be exhausts for central heating systems, which is a bit sad, really. We've just rolled through the Category 3 climb at 100 kilometres from home. No great combative move from the pair up the road. Demarchi just taking those points, and indeed the pursuers just coming across it right now. No real abatement of the climb. It rolls on. They continue to climb, albeit with a couple of little dips, for another couple of kilometres before we start one of our downhills. Now, when we do get on the downhill, you will notice Tony Martin is a fabulous descender, very much in the same mark as Sagan and of course Nibali. Nibali doesn't generally tend to adopt the Sagan and I think we can say Martin posture. It's very much free energy for him. We saw Demarchi during the break, one of the first commercial breaks we took, actually having to pedal on just to stay with Tony Martin, who was doing no work whatsoever. If you're a good descender, Sean, today's a great day for you, because we've got 20 odd kilometres of descent before we get to the flat late on, and it's free energy if you're good at it, and very much you expend nervous energy as well as having to pedal on if you're not very good at it.
Well, first of all, you have to look at when you get off the descent. It is yes, 28 kilometres of a descent, and then you have 20 kilometres on the flat. If you have a big advantage, you're in a two-man breakaway as we have here, and you have 3 or 4 minutes ahead of the peloton or the chasing group. You need to descend fast, because that final 20 kilometres is going to be a difficult one when you've been out in the break alone. So yeah, it will all depend on the Ballon d'Alsace, what the situation is, and as we can see, our 2 leaders and the chasing group, I'm afraid, with the number of riders in that chasing group and teams with a lot of riders, notably Europcar, as we can see here, they're the ones doing the riding on the front, and that is going to be difficult. I don't think it's going to happen for our 2 men to hold on out there. Will there be somebody who will try and go on the descent off the Grand Ballon? That is possible, but you have to remember there's 20 kilometres in the flat, and to hold a group off is going to be a very difficult one.
I don't think that Tony Martin will be that upset if this group join them, and indeed that they all make it stick, because I think he's still going to have some belief. So will we. An unbelievable day where you just have to think about what these guys are doing. We'll take a break. Welcome back. Well, the flag suggests blood and bandages. Let's hope everybody stays safe today. Plenty of descents, a lot of high-speed action, some technical stuff at the end, lots of rain perhaps, wind most certainly, and Tony Martin. Yes, he's large of lower lip, and I've always speculated as whether if he just folded that back in, whether he'd be even more aero. Not that he needs it. He's an amazing man in these kind of situations. Here he is doing his stuff. Now just watch the back wheel. That's the danger, especially when you're coming into some of these curves. And as you can see as well, Tony Martin is by far and away the better descender of this pairing. Looks nice and relaxed, just chooses his lines, looks not looking at where he is right now, but further down the road, and just balancing himself nicely and sailing into those curves. Now in his aero, the other rider having to pedal on just to keep up. Great at this, always good to watch, and I suppose if you're going to follow somebody's lines, then Tony Martin is yours. We're hearing that Tony Galopin has got a mechanical problem. Is it just an excuse? Because he's the man that the chasing group need to shell out, and rather than just back in and say, all right, off you pop. I suppose this might serve them well, Sean, if Galopin genuinely has got a mechanical. Whatever it is, they're better without him.
That will certainly be the case without him, because he is the one who is probably going to keep the peloton really alert and keep Astana having to push on and control the situation a bit more than they would normally want to do. Galopin is a one who in the general classification is still up there. Although the question is, with Astana, they really want to hold on to this jersey. You know, when you look at yesterday's situation, they might say, oh, would it be better if we could just offload the jersey for a number of days? And you know, the breakaway here, it could be a situation in the end, but at the moment, with 93 kilometers to go, you have to continue on controlling, because you're going to lose far too much if you start thinking of that at the moment. But in the very end, when we get to the Ballon d'Alsace, they might, you know, make the calculation, well, we make a tempo here and make the descent to the final 20 kilometers on the flat. They could say, if we could just leave some riders out there like Galopin, for example, and, you know, leave them take the yellow and leadership of this race, and that would take the pressure off Astana and Nibali for hopefully a day at least. But it's only going to be a day, because Galopin, we see yesterday, if he does manage you know, to go on out there, or somebody else, tomorrow is going to be a day where there's going to be very, very big gaps at the finish with the Planche de Belfi.
Just trying to work out whether these little spots here are our first indication of rain. It's bright sunshine at the finish, lots of dark cloud around, some of those clouds destined to burst at some point today. We're just hoping that it doesn't have a negative impact on these guys. Retzer's doing an amazing job. He's been a help, Sean, not only on these climbs, but to his team, particularly on sprinting days. He's been the main lead-out choice for them as well. He's a fantastic performer and has been throughout the early part of this year's tour.
He is riding amazingly. You know, on the stages where it was the big bunch sprints, we see him very much at the front there with Kokar setting up the sprint for him, and not afraid to, you know, hold his place in the final run-in. And you know, on the stages like today, you know, he's able to ride on the front here, and he's a rider that can get over the climbs pretty well. And today's stage, he's a huge asset for a Europcar to be up there, and they're the ones who are really, you know, pushing on this break, and they have been for a long time, and it's going to go on like this. And Pierre Laurent, of course, you know, he's fighting for the general classification, and that's another rider, I think, who we have to consider, because he is certainly trying to get back in to a position overall. He's lost a lot of ground, 7:34 at the moment, 23 in the general classification. He has to try and, you know, pull back that, and we've seen, I suppose, more recently in the Tour of Italy, when he lost ground in the time trial, then the days where there was opportunities in the mountain stages, he went in the attack from a long ways out, never stuck there, never gained any advantage. Will it be the case today, where he can pull back a number of minutes? And he's certainly committing with the team on the front at the moment of this breakaway.
Well, there might be a race within a race here as well, Sean, because there's always bragging rights for the French riders. And best placed of the French at the moment is Romain Bardet, and I guess he's raining on Pierre Roland's parade to a certain extent. Bardet finds himself in 7th place now overall, and very much a feature of so far the Tour. When it comes to the high ground, he might just refine the form that he displayed in the Dauphiné, and of course in the Tour of Catalonia as well, where he just went so well and took some big scalps on a daily basis.
Well, I think between all the French teams there's always rivalry, and we see AG2 LeMond yesterday. They had nine in the first 9 places. They had 3 riders, of course winning the stage, taking the polka dot jersey, and then we must not forget Pinot Thibault from Française de Joux. He's also up there yesterday. He had a real good performance, finishing in 5th. It's always the case in the Tour de France. Between the French teams there's always rivalry, and it's not anything surprising that we could have some of it today. It's probably in there already, but we'll see more of that as this race goes on.
Most certainly. Polka dot jersey then has been handed over. The young rider's jersey stays on the back of Kwiatkowski, albeit a man who was lending it, I think it's fair to say, or was borrowing it, I should say, from Peter Sagan. Sagan yesterday had a relaxing day, if you could possibly have one of those on the Tour. We thought he might be a feature today. He might still be, but this break is going to have to get caught in the meantime. Here's John.
Franck talking about his first race. I was 12. It was a club championship. There weren't many participants. There were only 4 of us, in fact. I finished 3rd. I was happy to finish 3rd because I got a medal. On the other hand, I wasn't happy because I was 2nd to last.
Je suis content que j'ai fait 3e puisque j'ai eu une médaille, j'ai ce podium, mais l'autre côté, je n'étais pas content puisque j'étais le deuxième dernier.
I started on the mountain bike. My first race was a mountain bike race as well.
I remember I didn't hang on for very long. I remember it was always a test of how long I could hang on to the wheels because there was never any kids my age to race with, so I was always racing with the adults.
Tommy Beckler saying I was really struggling, especially with the heat in Martinique. The locals were more developed than me at the same age. They were a lot more developed. I really struggled in the first year. I was either quitting or finishing in last place. The second year definitely went better in terms of results.
I think it was probably at about the age of 13, 14, around the streets of Nairobi. It was chaos, and you couldn't actually tell what was going on, but that was Kenya's version of a bike race. So.
Good to hear. Good news as well is that Nicolas Roche, of course, is doing a fantastic job within Tinkoff Saxo as we come through the Route des Vins d'Alsace. It's the wine road. That bike is in no way a link to Stephen Roche, who's decided to join us here. Although I'm sure he's had a glass or two in the locale. Although we were in Riesling the other day and I couldn't have any because it was basically just too expensive. How's Nicolas?
He's doing very well. I mean, we saw him yesterday leading out Contador, his last man, when Michael Rogers pulled over on the foot of the final time. Nicolas' job was basically to kind of give one short sprint just to kind of blow everybody out, and hopefully Contador could launch himself from that, which he did. But unfortunately, there's only like 2k or so to go, and Contador amazingly made a mistake. They thought there was actually nobody in front, so he basically was going for the stage win, thinking, well, I'm going to get time out of Nibali today, but I'm going to go for the stage win. He didn't know there was actually still one guy out the road. So, but unfortunately, he finished 2nd on the stage, but he got 3 seconds on Nibali. He showed Nibali that there was a bit of form there, and Nibali showed Contador that he was very strong, and that he's going to have to come try and really attack hard to get rid of him. So
well, we've got a little bit of a very annoying sound issue rolling on at the moment. I think I've just found about where it is. Unfortunately, it means that we can't. There we are. All done. We'll take ourselves a commercial break. We'll sort that out, and then we'll get back to you in a few moments' time. Welcome back. 86.7 kilometres to go. 4 minutes and 36 now is the gap from the leaders, which are 2, with 28 followers. It was always going to be a day where the breakaway had a possibility of succeeding, and indeed we just passed through a feed zone, and rather uncomfortably it's been dished out just ahead of a climb. We're on it right now. It's a category 2, and it goes on for quite a while. 4.1 kilometres indeed. So not exactly, Stephen Roche, an easy time to actually take on sustenance at a moment like this.
No, but we are on a kind of a mountain stage, so it's very difficult to find some flat as you get on into the stage. So, but in some stages, sometimes it's better off having a feed right now before the foot of the climb than over the top or on the flat on a very fast descent, whereas the guys can actually pick up their musette and empty it gradually into their pockets. And because with the speed going too fast, because when it's going too fast, it's kind of quick, and into the pockets, some of it falls off, they miss the musette. So once it's not all bad having it on the foot of a climb.
There we are. Not all bad either as well if you happen to live in this area. They don't export a great deal of wine, incidentally, because it is rather chilly here. It's white generally, and in fact possibly worth having a chat with John in a few moments' time, because I know that he's a bit of an aficionado. A bouquet to him is not a bunch of flowers. No. We'll come to that in a moment. Some amazing bell towers. In fact, I believe this one has a whole range of bells. I can't remember what a group of bells are called, but Hell's Bells today, I think, is an expression that might be used. It is a whole series of climbs. The real difficulties come tomorrow, Stephen.
It does, of course, but those guys, we just saw their rear mech there a minute ago. They got a 39 front ring, and he's actually on about a 21 behind, so it's by no means kind of a false flat.
No.
It's only 4k long. We're talking about the real climbs starting tomorrow, meaning real climbs of 10, 12k. This one's only 4k, but look at his chain. The rarest chain is in the rear mech there at the moment. He must be on a 21 or a 22, so it's by no means a false flat.
Well, let's go with that. Let's talk about what they're going to be doing tomorrow and just how different the day is when we get to the Planche de Belleville.
Well, I think today we see Astana riding behind this group, making sure they don't get too much of an advantage. And we see Saxo sitting on, and it's the ideal tactic for Contador, because he doesn't want his team to be riding on the front today as they did yesterday. It was yesterday they rode in the front to make the statement to Nibali and to try and blow out his teammates, which they did. But it was only a very marginal gain, as Dave Brailsford might say. It's a marginal gain of 3 seconds at the end of it all. But tomorrow you can be sure there's enough terrain there for Contador to take back a minute and a half from Nibali.
Come on then, give us a bit of inside line. I know you're not going to get Nicholas into trouble. He's rolling extremely well. He looks nice and comfortable. So significantly does Contador. Any secret battle plans? Obviously, we won't tell anybody.
Well, I'm glad you kind of got a confidence in you know, and I wouldn't be telling you this otherwise, you know. But no, I think that the main plan is basically to on the mountaintop finishes, make sure that the team stays together, eliminate the maximum of the Astana riders before to get to the final climb, so that Nibali can be isolated a bit, which is, I mean, you haven't got to be kind of rocket science to guess that one out. But today's plan was basically hoping that the Astanas would ride, and that they could get a kind of a recuperation ride, as they call it, and hope that tomorrow then they can actually do as they did yesterday, ride on the front and launch Contador towards the end.
It's something that's not in the gift of Astana at the moment. They are just having to impose themselves. It's not a job that they're particularly enjoying, and we were speculating about whether they might actually be minded to let the jersey go at this stage, but it's a dangerous game to play, especially when you've got Tinkoff Saxo looking so strong.
Yeah, it's a question everyone's asking themselves at the moment. The people are saying, like, okay, Tinkoff have a great team. Astana hasn't got a really great team in the mountains, which we saw yesterday. And even though Saxo rode in the front most of the day, when it hit the final climb, the Astanas were gone. So that's really the main plan of Saxo, is to get rid of the teammates of Nibali, so he's on his own, so that Contador can work him over. But I think yesterday we just saw beginning of something. We saw the beginning of maybe Nibali showing a bit of weakness. We saw him when Contador basically accelerated in the final 100 meters. He took 3 seconds out of Nibali, which is not a lot, but the signs for me are more important. We saw Nibali throwing his head down a little bit, and he wasn't actually comfortable at all. I think for the final 2K on that climb, when Nicholas pulled over and Contador took the lead, I think Nibali was actually bluffing a little bit. He was sitting down, looking nice and comfortable, but when Contador finally accelerated, which he only did towards the end because he actually was waiting, hoping, thinking he was going to win the stage. He got information from his car over the radio saying it was 4+1 in front, but he forgot about the 1 in front. And he miscalculated and thought he was actually going for a stage win with Nibali on his wheel. And so you really only realised with 200 metres to go that there was a guy in front. And he accelerated, and that's where he got rid of Nibali. But I think that when we start hitting the climbs like tomorrow, especially the final climb up to Planche de Belleville, it's 8K long and there's some very steep gradients on it. I think that that situation, Contador has the better hand, and definitely tomorrow at the end of the stage we'll be looking at a real genuine indication as to who the main men, the main contenders are for the final 10 days.
Well, that's it. We have a rest day approaching. They've got to deal with tomorrow first, and it is a proper mountains day. This about the power men and those who are minded to get into a breakaway. It's a sizable group of ambition, I think you might say, and when you see the names that we're conjuring with in this group, it is extremely impressive. Today's victory could come from just about any of these men. Pierre Rolland will be one of those who is just hoping to deliver something on behalf of Europe.
Well, the main thing is, unfortunately, if the finish was on top of the Ballon, yes, Pierre Rolland would be the man to watch. But we all know Pierre Rolland's not a great descender, and there's some 50k from the top of the Ballon down to the finish. So 20k downhill and 25k or so into the finish. So, you know, even if Pierre Rolland shows great form and gets away going up, I can see him being caught going down. So unfortunately, the finish does come a bit too far from the end for, like I said a minute ago, any of these guys could probably win the stage because they're quite capable, each and every one of them, of getting over the climb and then of course riding into the finish. So it's very open at the moment.
Le'Mond, not in a happy place at the moment. He was absolutely delighted overnight. Speculation that he maybe just had a couple of glasses of champagne too many. They just allow it to touch their lips, incidentally, they say. But yes, I think he's suffering today, as is written large upon the screen right now.
It's amazing. I mean, the form he had yesterday, like I spoke to him at the end of it all, he was very, very fresh, and he has been riding a good tour. He's a really good rider, so there's something obviously hidden that we don't see there. Maybe he was ill overnight, not from the champagne, because we know the guys on tour, they don't drink the champagne other than wet their lips. But obviously there's something else hit him last night, because he's definitely, when the group is like this, so big still, he shouldn't be one of the first guys to be at the back door.
Well, he is. There is illness within the peloton, we are hearing. There's a number of riders. I don't know whether they're using it as an excuse at the moment. And in fact, excuse was what Nibali issued yesterday, saying he got dodgy gear change at the end. He was kind of repeating the excuse, if you like, of Contador, who used that during the desperate day on the cobbles on stage 5. Here we go, category 2, just rolling through. It's not the King of the Mountains jerseys these guys are going for. They are minded, of course, to win the stage, and 5 minutes and 26 is what they hold over our leaders at the moment. Time to stretch out the legs and have a look. They eyeball each other. There's not a great deal of conversation going on between them, unlike that between ourselves and Stephen Roach. We thank him for his company. Good to have an inside line on just exactly the thinking within Tinkoff Saxo, albeit he's keeping a little bit back. We'll put the thumb screws on him on another occasion, I'm sure, during this tour. Thanks for joining us, Stephen. It's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. Best of luck.
Thank you. 83.6 kilometers to go. 5 minutes and 26 is that gap right now, and Astana still on policing duties. Great to see Sky mobbed up here as well, now believing that they might well get something fabulous out of this. You never know. Your luck can come to you at any time, one way or the other, good or bad. Well, you know what, this is a nice sight in my mind, seeing Katusha and indeed Perito Rodriguez back to form. I did think that over the last couple of days maybe he was keeping something back, We suspected he might come good in the last week, but Sean, he's got to decent form a little bit earlier than that. He's blowing now. He's a man who's had 5 broken ribs so far this year. I hope he doesn't pick up any more. He said he was going to target the King of the Mountains. You never know if he manages to get himself into some of the hillier breaks. The points he's just picked up right now on this category 2 for coming home 3rd across the line might well just help him in that push.
Well, it certainly will help in the push. It's interesting to see that he's getting into good shape. It looked like that for me. I was expecting to be a number of days before we would see him really competitive. In the earlier days of this race, he seemed to be struggling a lot, but we were not into the terrain where Rodriguez performs well. Flat roads, windy conditions, cobblestones. He doesn't like that, but we're getting into his a more favourite terrain and showing good form earlier than I was expecting.
Nico Ade is nipping in for points there. Welcome back. The gap 5 minutes and 53. It's just heading towards that 6 minutes mark now, with just under 80 kilometers to go. We're on, well, basically the big climbing phase of the day. We're going to be going through an intermediate sprint in about 14 kilometers time. We've got an uncategorized climb as well, which we are actually engaged in right now. And on any other day, this probably would have been counted as a proper climb, but well, as it is, we have 6 of them in total. And the category 1 that they're going to start heading up once they come off this little descent, where our breakaway riders are just getting into now. In fact, they still have to come to this little first peak that is, as we said, not categorized today. It's a tough climb, as we said. Then we get into this big phase of the mount itself. It does end with the Grand Ballon. That's only categorized 3. Just ahead of that, almost like going into a bowl at the top of the mountain. Volvic style, I guess. There is a categorized 1 climb today, and it extends over 10.8 kilometers at 5.4%, so not a huge test in itself. The last one, that little categorized 3, is only 1,400 meters long, but it's 8.6% with little ramps within it that are actually peakier than that. So, and we have another bowl which we go in and out of on the climb as well. So it's a proper, constant, little punishing piece of terrain, this. And it's going to knock holes in the peloton that are trying to minimize the damage today. Damage can be imposed. It was always going to be one for the breakaways, and we've got a huge amount of riders who could be part of that. It's a lovely part of the world. John, you're a sampler of the odd glass of wine, obviously within reason. It's renowned, this area.
It is renowned, and we've been on the Côte des Vins as well, a little earlier on in the stage. Plenty of vineyards around here. It is, as you've already suggested, an area which has the majority of its wines are white wines from Alsace, with lots of Sylvaner, Riesling, Gewürztraminer, Pinot Blanc, Pinot Noir as well, and a bit of Tokay Pinot Gris, and the Muscat grape as well used. Someone mentioned to me yesterday over Twitter, remember you can get in touch with us at #Eurosport_cycling or directly to @CarltonKirby or @Jono_HB, that's JONO_HB. But about Cremant, which is something that I forgot to mention yesterday, that's the sparkling wine from the region, and Cremant is a particularly good substitute for champagne, and it certainly won't cost you as much, and it makes a very good Kir Royale if you add a little bit of cassis to the bottom of the glass as well. And the other thing not to be forgotten is Marc, which is a spirit, and Marc from this region is very good as well. That's mostly you'll find made with Gewürztraminer grape at the end of its at the end of its life, I say. So those are the wines from the region, and they're particularly good as an aperitif.
There we are. Yes, very dry and sour, some of those wines, and do with a bit of cheering up with some cassis. Why not? Well, why not try Pêche? Yeah, not really known beyond France, but creme cassis, you can use Pêche instead, and to be honest, a Pêche Royale is rather nice. Talking about Kings, Andre Greipel, the gorilla. this won't be a huge negative for Andre Greipel today, but he's not going to be there towards the end, Sean. And in fact, he's the least suffering of all of the sprinters. Kittel was distanced by 5 minutes very early on.
Well, it's not an easy day for the sprinters. When you look at the climbs we have to get over, you know, the first category climbs, second category climbs, when the race is on like it is at the moment. Normally, situation would be that we have a break out front, guys in general classification, long ways down, and the team of yellow jersey would be just rolling along, and the sprinters can't stay in there that pace. But the way they're pushing at the moment, it just tells that there's more urgency than normal, and we all know why with this big breakaway. You know, a lot of riders up there in general classification, notably Tony Galopin, who was at 3:27, but the question is, will he be able to hold on the final climb of the day up the Ballon d'Alsace, which there's two climbs in one, of course, because you know, the Mark Stein, which is the longer part, and then you have that fourth category classification for the King of the Hills classement, and then you go on to the Grand Ballon, and there's a little bit of a respite, a little bit of a downhill, but in total, you know, it's 12.2 kilometers climbing. Will he be able to hold on there? Because there will be some riders here in this big group of breakaway which will, you know, try and attack and go on the Ballon and get rid of some of those riders, because there is a lot of carriages, as they say in cycling. There's a lot of the guys not contributing here, just waiting, and that is the question. And then look at the general classification. We mentioned Roland, another one that I missed there, Thiago Manchado from Team Nepet Endura. He's the best in general classification, surprisingly, not taking anything from the rider. He has, you know, had some great results in the past. Last year maybe not a great year for him, but he's at 6 minutes 07. So you know, the general classification, there's a lot of guys here who could make a lot of ground, and Pierre Roland and Europcar, who are really the ones who are pushing on this break here. He's the one who's hoping to move big time in general classification from that just over 7.5 minutes leapfrog up the general classification. Will they be able to hold on? And the question is, on the final climb of the day, that Ballon d'Alsace, I think we could see some action from Contador and co.
Wow, can't wait. Busy days. In the sort of rush to the rest day, I think you might say. These guys doing their own thing out front just for the time being. Demarchi, incidentally, King of the Mountains, don't forget, in the Dauphiné, so not averse to a few peaks and troughs, which they have there. They're going to start climbing right now. This is the non-categorized climb that we were talking about. This is the Ballestein, and then they will be into that trio of climbs, albeit with other little punches within it, that take us to the 43 kilometers to go marker, and that's where we begin that long series of downhill descents to our flatlands and the run to Mulhouse or Mulhouse, depending on which side of the border you're from. Welcome back. Many of you getting a little bit worried that the likes of Kittel and some others may well be beyond the cutoff time today. We will have to wait to see what that time is today. With heavy rain, says Billy White, do cyclists ever change wheels? There are certain tyres that are regarded as being better in the wet, but it's you basically stay with your sponsor, to be honest, when it comes to tyres and your contact point with the road. Some teams occasionally drift away from that, though, Sean, do they not?
Well, they change wheels, of course, if the terrain is different, and when you're racing in the Paris-Roubaix, Tour of Flanders, the Belgian races where you have a lot of cobblestones, you know, the normal was you go away from the high-profile rims, which just mean these big rims, you know, 50 rims. You go back to the standard rim, the old traditional one, and you use them over the cobblestones, which are more comfortable.
72.2 kilometers to go. Reasonable road surfaces in this part of the world. It's a 6 minutes and 14 gap to his nibs, Monsieur Nibali, Mr. Nibali, to you and me, Sir to his teammates, and at the moment he has called for them to re-engage in the chase. It's playing into the hands, this, of both Sky and Tinkoff Saxo, and they're the teams nearest to him, courtesy, of course, of Richie Port's position and, naturally, Alberto Contador. A lot of you saying he clearly had gear change issues yesterday and stopped saying he was faking it. Well, you know what, you can fake gear change issues as well if you're feeling a bit under the weather. And as Sean said, really at this level you shouldn't have a problem finding the right gear. I think he was probably looking for an excuse. That is not to say that Nibali is not, of course, or is ebbing in his powers. Not a bit of it. It's how you manage yourself, however. And unfortunately, Astana have had to put so much effort into preserving the yellow jersey. We were even speculating early on whether they might be minded just to hand it over to somebody else. Obviously, that's a dangerous game to play, Sean. This is the obvious game they're playing right now. It doesn't mean that they're enjoying it.
Well, certainly not enjoying it when you have a big group of riders as we have out in the breakaway, and with teams with Europcar, for example, with 4 riders. Well then, as we can see, there's some of them starting to lose contact. Rezé there is slipping back to the group, as does Chavanel also. So riders starting to get shed out of that big breakaway, and not surprising because the pace out front, our 2 riders up front, they're putting up a real strong performance. DeMarchi and Martin, they're really pushing on big time, because the breakaway with Pierre Rolland and his teammates, they have been also pushing, and they haven't been able to close down on the 2-man break up front. And also, as we see here, Astana is pushing on real fast here. Peloton stretched out a lot, and you have seen the riders the way they've been shed out in this in the previous climbs. And the peloton at the moment, it's worth losing at least 50-60 riders, if not more.
It's over 6 minutes. I think we're going to be losing plenty. If it's an enormous group today, especially as we're on the 9th of 10 days to the first rest day, and it's been punishing terrain, let's be clear about that. Some of the days that were designated as flattish, such as the run to Sheffield, and of course we had the cobbles on stage 5, it really has taken plenty of prisoners. We've had lots of injuries, we've had some notable names, of course, going out. Mark Cavendish and Chris Froome amongst them, as I'm sure you know. So yes, it's a hard one. Commissaires, when it comes to cut-off times, Sean, occasionally they're minded to relax it a little bit if it is an enormous group. Nobody wants to kill the race.
Well, commissaires, the regulations, if there's a little bit of a problem there, they start pulling out the rule book, and they're by the rule book, except if there's the bus, which we call, is the group of sprinters, which is a long ways behind. If they get a thunderstorm in the end, and for example on the Ballon d'Alsace, they could be 15 minutes behind coming up that one. If they get a thunderstorm for the descent, well then the commissaires might say, well, they lost a couple of minutes there, and if they are 3-4 minutes outside the time limit of the day, they might relax it a bit there. But otherwise, unless there's a real solid one for the riders and the gruppetto, it's always a risky one, that they're going to be put out. And of course as well, it depends on the numbers. If there's X number of riders and there's a very big group, well then they're not put out because of that. There is the number situation, but I don't think today they will have a problem. We've seen some of the riders got dropped early, but I think the bus will be quite big and they'll get organised, and they should be able to make inside the time. The climbs are not that really difficult and steep, so it's just the sheer speed in the earlier part. They will not be able to follow that, but they'll not lose a huge amount of time on those climbs. Not like when you have real difficult ones in the Pyrenees where they go on for 18+ kilometres at a very steep gradient, and you have a number of them during the day. I don't think they will lose a huge amount where they'll be in danger for the time delay.
Intermediate sprint, they roll through it. No great hurry. Certainly no idea about fighting for it. It's virtually Peter Sagan's at the moment. He's so far ahead in that competition. It may well be that he comes through to take some points, but as you can see, his teammate DeMarchi not even concerned about neutralising the points there that Tony Martin was taking for Omega Pharma Quickstep. It really does look like it belongs to Sagan. We were speculating as to whether they might hand the yellow jersey over. At the moment, courtesy, there are a couple of riders who are in the virtual position of holding yellow at the moment. Galopin's the biggest threat. He would be the kind of guy that, to be honest, that's the sort of rider they wouldn't mind giving this yellow jersey to. it would take the pressure off a little bit, that's for sure.
Well, it will always take the pressure off, but you know, Galopin, how long would he be able to hold on to the jersey if it does happen today? And he is in by far the strongest or the most best position at 3:27, and then you go down, as we mentioned, Diego Machado, he is also there at 6:07. He will be one could hold for a number of days if he gets in close to taking yellow jersey today.
Welcome back. Just heading for the Devil's Own distance, as you can see, and they're cutting their way through the trees as we stand. 6 minutes and 18 is the gap. It really is a truly beautiful part of the world, and worth fighting for. Well, plenty thought it was, unfortunately. Lots of hand-to-hand combat going on in the this area, and of course Alsace itself fought over and indeed negotiated about on both world wars. Well, sorry for the interlude. We have a number of entertainers. I think that's what they broadly like to call themselves. Whether or not they are, the crowd is entertained by them is something else. But there's plenty of sort of showtime today in Mulhouse. They obviously have a theatrical tradition which is slightly lost on me. There we are. Sprint in 1,000 metres. To be honest, I thought we'd already rolled through this, but there you go. I'll have to spool my brain back. It was clearly an announcement to the distance to it. It's a strange place to place one. It's on a climb, but to be honest, Sean, you're hard pushed to find any flat terrain today. It just goes up and down until the very last, when we have 21 kilometres of it, and the wind could well be a factor.
Well, the wind could be a factor in the very end of the stage. I think in the final 20 kilometres, that's where when you come off the final climb, the Grand Ballon, when we get down in the valley, I think we could see a problem there with the wind, and that would be more so back in the peloton of big favourites. I think this chasing group, which we've been losing riders, we did see, you know, the Europe car Rezé, and we see Chavanel being swallowed up by the chasing group and yellow jersey. About 25 riders in that chasing group at the moment, and we will lose a lot more of them on the I think before we get to the final climb of the day. Back in peloton, that's where it could be very nervous in the final, but again, it will be a small group, I would reckon, because back in the peloton they will surely push on, and there will be somebody who go on the attack, and we'll lose a lot of riders out of the peloton. So we could have a group of 30 or 40 riders in that chasing group or peloton of main contenders, and then the wind conditions, I don't see it being too much of a problem. It's all about the climbs today and the sheer speed and the aggression of this race of, you know, action all the way from the start.
Just looking down as to where these guys sit in that points competition. Peter Sagan, incidentally, coming into today has 267 points. Nearest man to him, Brian Cocard, who has been his coquettish self, 156, and Kittel, who of course did so well in the early sprints and is really suffering today and may even fail to make the cutoff at 146. That is a real danger, I guess, for sprinters as a constant throughout the high ground. Kittel managed to get to the Champs-Élysées last year, don't forget, and managed to beat off a challenge from Mark Cavendish and Andre Greipel in what is widely regarded as the Sprinters World Championship. But these guys just rolling across the line uncontested, and I don't think Peter Sagan has to worry too much about sprint points. We will perhaps see him put some in the bank later on, but with the breakaway group, the pursuers being so wide, it's of no consequence. 25 riders still, and Sagan is not part of that group. Yesterday, Sagan, incidentally, who we remind you is a teammate of Demarchi, who you're looking at right now, with Tony Martin up front. Sagan yesterday saying that when he didn't make the break, he just went for insurance and just let himself ride through the stage as opposed to contest it.
Well, I think he could not do any more. Get into the breakaway. We've seen him doing that in the past, and if he manages that, well, then he can stay up in the breakaway and be quite competitive, and certainly pick up a lot of points, the intermediate point, and if the breakaway goes all the way to the finish, well, then he can do it there again. He tried yesterday. He tried again today. We heard in the earlier part he was in a very big group of riders, but it wasn't the one which stuck and pulled back by the peloton, and then another group getting away. So he's a long ways back the road here. He's not in that group of yellow jersey at the moment, and he's going to be in the gruppetto in the bus again today. So no points at all, but with the advantage he has in green jersey classification, there's no panic at all for Sagan. He has so much of an advantage over the main contenders, the main challengers in that classification. You could say without accident, without sickness, he's going to take this green jersey all the way to Paris.
I think so, and it was an absolutely spectacular start to this tour. First 7 stages, don't forget, finishing in the top 5 and runner-up on 3 occasions. That is just outstanding consistency throughout, and we salute Sagan, not averse to doing it at any juncture. He's a strong man, and I know, Sean, he's one of your favourite riders.
Well, he is a talented rider, a class rider, and his way of racing as well. Sometimes I think maybe I question it a little bit, as I did 2 days ago. Not really too much on air, but I think he was a little bit too nervous in the end, going away with Van Avermaet in the very final. If he had sat back a bit, I think he would have, that little bit more left for the sprint itself. But when you're out there, it's not easy to do. The adrenaline is flowing, you're feeling good, and somebody going the attack, the normal reaction is you're going to go with him because you're afraid, well, it's going to go all the way to the finish. And if he wasn't up there with Van Avermaet 2 days ago, well, the group might have said, well, Sagan is here, he's going to win the sprint anyway, leave him chase, and then Van Avermaet might have held on out there. So it's a difficult one, but he's not afraid, and we see him the early part of the season in the races, in the Belgian races, very, very aggressive, and that's his style of racing, and it's nice to see.
It's great. We love it when it's punchy. And today, well, if you were going to take some hits, 63.2 kilometres to go. Next climb, it's an uncategorised one that they're going to be taking on. In fact, we don't even have a name for it. That's how uncategorised it is. However, we do, of course, have our main test of the day, of which it forms part. And as we get up to the Markstein, and then, of course, the Grand Ballon, and we then enter that rather exciting downhill section today, which starts with 43 kilometres to go. So we've got these 3 tests still ahead of us, 2 of which are categorised, and they're on now. Pace is ebbing just a little bit, and so I guess it's not exactly a change of mood, because we stay combative, but while they take on a bit of extra sustenance, let's cleanse our souls a bit. John, you've got a poem for us today.
Yeah, I'm going to just do an excerpt of a poem today, which many will be glad to hear. It's by a French poet, Guillevic, who spent some of his life here in the Haute-Rhine region, and it's been translated by Donald Justice. It's called The Man Closing Up, and this is the final verse. There is a word for it, a simple word, and the word goes around. It curves like a staircase, and it goes up like a staircase, and it is a staircase, an iron staircase on the side of a lighthouse, all in his head. And it makes no sound at all in his head unless he says it. Then the keeper steps on the rung, the bottom rung, and the ascent begins, clangorous, rung after rung. He wants to keep the light going if he can, but the man closing up does not say the word.
Nice and appropriate, John. Good choice for today. John in Paris has been issuing Poetry Corner every single day, picking something appropriate along the way. And of course we've been dwelling on the war poets just a little bit. It's getting now more tremorous, I guess, as we head towards this steps that they're on right now. And we have 3 of them, Sean, and they're going to be big ones. And I'm just wondering whether this duo can actually make it. They've got 2 minutes and 50 still. Now, we know about Tony Martin's qualities, and with 43 kilometres to go, albeit we've got 3 climbs, 2 categorised before we get to that point, but the next 20 kilometres are basically going to be the axis point of the day, because when we get to the downhills and then the flat run in, Tony Martin's great at this sort of stuff.
Well, he is a brilliant descender. He can do it well on the flat. He's a real powerhouse, and it will be interesting to see now as we get on to this very crucial moment of the stage, with the climbs coming up. 2 climbs in one really, but it all finishes on the top of the Grand Ballon, and how much fire is left in this breakaway. There's a lot of riders, you know, been following the breakaway for a long time. I think we will see some of them. Purito, we did see putting in a little bit of an effort earlier on in the previous climb, so I think there will be riders. Pierre Roland, what has he got? Will he be able to really push on the climb? Our two men have been a long time out in front, and just two, you know, sharing the pace there with 250 in advantage. If they start to tire and the men in the breakaway are really on a good day, I think this 250 will come down quickly, but it's still a real good advantage for our two breaker men.
Lars Baum, winner of stage 5 on the cobbles. Tried to bridge over to the break today, by the way. Didn't quite make it, as you can see. And so he is just about to be absorbed by the peloton, who remain over 6 minutes down on our two breakaway men. It's going to be a breakers day, but we still don't know who's going to make it home. Back in a moment. Welcome back. 60.4 kilometers to go. Now just over 6.5 minutes. Kittel 12 minutes down for our international viewers. We'll be reminding our British friends when they join us in just a few moments' time, but that looks like dangerous territory. .2 kilometers to go, and the gap over 6.5 minutes. Significantly, though, the Kittel group that we were talking about is over 12 minutes down, and they have the main body of the day's climbs still to come. Goodness knows how they're going to cope tomorrow, and will some of them not be here, Sean, for tomorrow?
I don't think so. 12 minutes at the moment. We must remember the group of yellow jersey and all the big favourites are 6.5 minutes down, so yes, that's not a huge gap back to the group of all the big sprinters and the men who are suffering, and I think they will, you know, finish quite strong. They will make a good pace on the climb up to the Ballon, and then they'll make the descent very fast. And I think that's the thing as well, you know, the Gruppetto group, the bus group, they can make the descents really fast, and then they will work well in the final 20 kilometers. So I don't see that gap growing out hugely, where they will be in danger of general getting out of the race and being outside the time limit.
Well, it is a danger, especially if you are a sprinter and you don't like the climbs. And Kittel, to be honest, not functioning as well as I thought he was capable of on this kind of terrain. Lord help him tomorrow when it gets very serious. Katusha minded to do something today. It's interesting as well that we've seen Rodriguez enjoying life, I think, for possibly the first time in a long time, certainly on this level of stage. And this stage today leading as it does into the Planche de Belfi. Sean, will some teams be keeping something back for tomorrow, because it is a huge test? It comes on a 10th day, just ahead of the rest day.
Well, I think that would be objective this morning for some of the teams, general classification men and their team, to try and get maybe an easier day today. After yesterday, with the horrible weather conditions, you know, the big downpours we had and the way they raced very fast, and it's not going to be the case. The way the race is going, you know, it's been a very active day, a relatively short stage as well today, 170 kilometers. I think that has been part of the reason that we've seen so aggressive out from the kilometer zero. And unfortunately, anybody who's hoping to get an easier day, it's not going to be the case, and it's going to go all the way to the finish. With the way the race is lying at the moment, with the breakaway out front, the peloton is, you know, going to continue setting this very fast pace, and nobody is going to get an easy ride today.
These guys not having an easy ride at all, as you can see. This is the Kittel group, but significantly, it also completes with Arnaud Demer. And look at this, Tony Martin's decided he's had just about enough. He's not averse to doing these days on his own. He did it in the Vuelta, and if he can get over these peaks, he's fully aware of the terrain. 22 kilometers lie ahead of descending, don't forget, albeit with a little kick up. And I think this is him basically just showing to Demarchi that he's still here, and he is capable of doing this on his own, and if you want to play the game, then you're going to have to put a bit more effort in. This is a proper attack, by the way, and we've seen Tony Martin just changing gear, essentially just changing cadence. He's amazing at this. He just gradually increases the hurt, and quite often the way that Tony Martin actually leaves the peloton behind is simply by just changing his cadence. He's not given to hugely explosive attacks. That's about as explosive as Tony Martin gets, that we've just seen right now, but boy is it effective.
Well, it's not a huge explosive attack, but it can go on for 3, 4, 5k the attack. You know, when he just puts the power down, he can continue on for, you know, a number of kilometers at such a high pace. And you know, he's just upped it a little bit here. And the surprising thing is with De Marchi, who was a good climber in his own right, Tony Martin just opened the pace a bit on the uphill. I'd not be surprised if it was on the flat and maybe in a bit of a side wind. That's where he is, you know, really powerful. But he's on a big day today, you know, going for the moment, and he's not hanging around at all. And he feels that maybe De Marchi is not giving it 100%, and we all know Tony Martin, he can go for a long one, but this is a long one, 58.5 kilometers.
I think if it wasn't for the 22 kilometers of descending that he's got to put in the bank, as it were, because he is so great at descending, he can actually just stop pedaling for much of that, save for a couple of kick-ups along the way. He's thinking about the last 21 and getting there. The terrain suits his style, Sean. It is sort of begging for a long one, but whether you can do it on your own is something else.
Well, it's going to be an interesting one. I think we're looking at the situation at the moment, you know, 6:24 back to the main peloton, and still this big group of chasers over 2:20 roughly down. All depend on what sort of power is left in this group, and I think the main danger could come from this group. At 2:20 there should be some of the guys here who will be able to cause problems for Tony Martin and De Marchi out front. But back in the peloton as well, if we see, you know, the teams like Tinkoff Saxo yesterday, they were impressive, and if they put, you know, the team in motion and, you know, really give it 100%, well, then that advantage as well for Tony Martin of over 6 minutes could come down very quickly. But Martin is, you know, on one of these great days which we've seen him a number of times in the past.
Well, De Marchi and Martin are separated by 12 seconds at the moment, so he's already had an impact, and this is on a climb, don't forget, and he can extend that on the descents. When will he be descending? In about 15 kilometers time. He has to go through a number of little sections. Somebody asking what we mean by an uncategorized climb. Well, generally speaking, climbs have a marker. It's a strange one. It's based on the class that they're given is actually based on the gearing of an old Citroën Avant when they started doing this sort of thing between the wars. It was a vehicle certainly between the wars, and I think the classification arrived after that, but they because of the war they didn't update their the change in models didn't take place very quickly. Oh, hello. And we've had a little bit of trouble. Danny Pate, I beg your pardon, it's G, who's Geraint Thomas, who's there. And yeah, there's a whole list of others as well. Pichot also caught out, but here you Boucher also having some issues out there as well. Nobody hurt, just a touch of wheels as they just all compact together. And Boucher is the man who's having the most problem technically. Not a great time to have it, Sean, on a climb.
Well, I don't think there's any good time today, the way the race has been going, but certainly at the beginning of a climb, you lose your position totally and you find yourself, you know, 15-20 seconds, and we can see here Boucher starting to, you know, get his chain back on. He's going to have, you know, 15-20 seconds, and to make up that, to get onto the end of the peloton, and there will be riders start to lose contact, so, you know, you have to get around all those riders, and it's going to, you know, take that bit of effort which you can pay for later on further up the climb.
We're just explaining how climbs are categorized. Take the Citroën Avant. Its gearing So its level of difficulty was what they used. So if you needed a first gear to get up a climb, it was categorized 1. If the car couldn't get up, it was beyond categorization, or category, which you will see as well. Haven't had one so far on this Tour de France, but plenty still to come. So yes, the gearing down to 4th, so a relatively easy climb. It would have been 4th gear in a Citroën Avant. I know it's a broad definition, but initially that's how they did it. These days it's bled a little bit, and climbs essentially get categorized in other ways. However, when there's a day with lots of climbs, some that might well have been a category 3, just not given points. Simple as that. You can't win King of the Mountains points on an uncategorized climb. But nonetheless, they have those climbs. On a day like this, which is very peaky, there are several areas where on any other day they would have been categorized 3 or 4, but just so, because it's there's just so many climbs that are categorized, they leave us a little spare on some of those. So that's what an uncategorized climb is. It doesn't necessarily mean it's not a test. Welcome back. 56 kilometers to go. 6 minutes and 49 is the gap. It's huge. There's Belkadri suffering in the polka dot jersey. Plenty will do as well today. Christian Meyer has been dropped. Plenty of others as well. They won't be the first. They're certainly not the first, and they won't be the last today. There we are. Just bounce your way through this one. There's real torture tomorrow, don't forget. And the gap is approaching 7 minutes. 7 minutes, people. It's not pretty, but it's effective. Tony Martin is going for it, and his spittle-laced face means business. As it was into Caceres on the Vuelta de España, don't forget, he went very long and missed out by only, what, a handful of meters. Well, he's going for it again. 30 seconds is the distance between himself and Demarchi. 2 minutes and 30 he holds over the main body of the pursuers, and 7 minutes and 5 over this lot, which include, of course, the GC contenders. It could be a glorious day for Tony Martin. He's looked at the terrain, he's worked it out, and knows what the possibilities are. In 5 kilometers time, just a little bit more than that, he'll be going into the bowl at the top of the day. So he goes over a category 1 in a bowl at the top of a mountain. He's got a category 3 peak. It's quite nasty, 8.6%, but only over 1,400 meters. And then he'll start to descend. With 36 kilometers to go, he will have completed the last of the ramps on the descent, but it's a long run in. 22 kilometers of descending, including that kick up, and then 21 kilometers to home. So 43 kilometers that could belong to Tony Martin. That's going to be the crucial zone where anybody who is minded to try and wind him in will have to be very strong indeed, because when he turns his mind off to pain and on to pace, and indeed on to tempo, he's a frightening man indeed. There we are. 5 kilometers to go for him to reach the top of the big climb of the day, Sean. He'll still have a little test which finishes a little bit higher. Only category 3, a short punch still to come, and then he's on the run home. Can he make it home?
Well, he's looking still very powerful. The question is the breakaway chasers here. They're the ones where the problem is going to come from, and you know, it's still over that 240 at the moment. It's surprising that Tony Martin is holding on so well, but as we go further up the climb, we will see now what way this chasing group will react. Is there guys who want to, you know, really push on, and that will be the indicator, I suppose. The next 4 or 5 kilometers, if we have attacks out of this chasing group, then Tony Martin could be in difficulty holding on. 2:43, we can see back to that group of Pierre Roland, Galopin.
Gosh, it's a nervous day. I'm kind of getting nervous on behalf of Tony Martin, because frankly I'd absolutely love to see him make it count. He does these amazing feats of endurance on occasion, of course on a time trialing bike, but engages it in a road stage as well, beautifully so. I guess one day they'll write poems about Tony Martin, perhaps. This is Tony Martin's part of his skill set, descending. Now, we're not suggesting you try and copy this, especially in the rain, which he's just found right now. Look at that. There is a halo effect from the sun behind the big cloud. Well, let's just hope that Tony Martin has angel's wings to stay safe today, because everybody else is going to get very nervous on this descent. Nibali, incidentally, will love the fact that there is some rain about for the descent. It might come as a bit of heat respite as well to some of those in the climb. Because of the altitude we're dealing with, incidentally, today, the temperature difference from the valleys to the top is about 5 degrees. And I guess when the rain starts to come, you can even start to feel a little bit cold. Tony Martin's got no protection out there. He's not asking for any. He doesn't ask any favours, especially on a day like this. A wet descent, Sean. He is pacey in these circumstances. Is this playing into his hands?
Well, I think with the temperatures out there, the little bit of rain won't be of a problem cold-wise. It's going to make the descent a bit more dangerous, and you know, when you're really pushing to gain every second possible on the descent, as he is on the uphill, then it can become a bit risky. Dry conditions would be much better, but it's the same for everybody, I think, and we're probably going through a shower here, and in the mountains here it can be very localized as well. We can see here, you know, they're really getting a heavy one, but 5 or 6 kilometres further on, or the other side of the mountain, it could be totally dry.
Well, let's hope for them it is, but I'd like it to be at least even in its distribution, so that some aren't blessed and others cursed. 53 kilometres, 7 minutes and 30, and it really is a proper shower. If the way that television pictures work is by revealing pages, a bit like a flicker book, and it generally tends to wipe out the vision of rain, which is why Hollywood, when they want to have rain in films, actually have to call in the fire service and really make it torrential, just to give you an impression of it, because it disappears by the method of filming. Same deal with television, and so when you see it, it's heavy. Let's just leave it at that, shall we? So they're going through a heavy shower at the moment, a real cloud burst. There's lots of grey clouds around. It hasn't really hampered their helicopter, thank goodness. You're looking at the peloton, it's 7.5 minutes down on Tony Martin, who's engaging in free energy collection at the moment as he heads for this downhill. He's got that little kick, we said, that category 3. He'll be getting to it, incidentally, reasonably shortly. He hasn't actually reached the peak of the category 1 yet to get into the bowl. That was the little subclimb that wasn't categorized that he was on, which is why he was having a downhill run. So he's got a category 1, a category 3, and then he has that long run in. Nibali as well is extremely comfortable, and he may well just take the lead of everybody down the mountain, because he's quite happy to lead his teammates down. He doesn't want to beat them up for a start, so he might just take it a little bit easy. He hasn't been taking it easy today. They've been forced to ride on, Sean, and tomorrow is a massive day. I guess if we just cast our minds forward a little bit to the terrain that we're going to be dealing with tomorrow, just momentarily, it's going to be a big attack day, isn't it, for the GC guys, and they need as much strength in their legs as they possibly could get, which has played ever more into the hands of the breakers today.
Well, I think tomorrow's a real difficult day. It's 161 kilometres, but it's up and down. The first 20 kilometres are flat, but after that, you know, you're up and down those climbs all day. In the valleys, there's a little bit of a respite on occasions, but very, very few. And it's going to be a difficult day, but there is no guarantee that we're going to see a big battle today. Just the way the racing started, very aggressive racing, big breaks going away, and it made for a very, very fast day's racing. It should be that tomorrow, but the big days, the big rendezvous are no guarantees.
Four category 1s for them to deal with tomorrow, Sean. I wouldn't be surprised to see some riders leaving something in arrears today.
Well, I think that will definitely have an effect. There's going to be the tiredness, the fatigue, the injuries. You know, the riders are carrying a lot of them with injuries from the earlier crashes we had in the first week of racing, and fatigue is going to be the big thing tomorrow. I think we're having very, very aggressive racing. Yesterday was a difficult day. Today is the majorly difficult one, and when you have a stage like tomorrow, if they do go about racing as anything that they've been doing today, well, there's going to be, you know, groups everywhere, because the terrain is, you know, really difficult, and if the peloton races as a fast fast rate from the start, then you will have, you know, groups everywhere, and a difficult day. And of course the climb to Planche Le Belleville, it's a real difficult one. First category, the percentage, the gradient is very, very difficult, and it's a one where, you know, you can make a difference. It's 5.9 kilometers. It's a long one at that gradient after such a difficult day all through the stage.
I think it might well be that tomorrow is a great time to lay down a marker for the rest day. 10 days of solid racing, and Tinkoff Saxo and of course Alberto Contador, their main charge, will be very busy tomorrow. They can't help that. They look like a bunch who have been riding hard, to be honest, for some time, and that's exactly what's happened. It's 10 days of racing when tomorrow is finished, before we get to the rest day. And some will feel like they're finished, I'm sure, by the end of today, let alone tomorrow. Well,
in a big 3-week tour, it's only the fittest that survive, and you know, you have to be a rider that recover very well, and that's what makes the big two riders so good. You know, they can race 10 days, 2 weeks. The recovery rate is just so good. They can go out and race the next day almost at their 100%, and they are the ones who can win the big tours. And then of course the riders who do not, you know, recover well as the race go on, you just start to getting more and more tired, and then it's suffering and torture all the way.
Well, we saw Fabio Cancellara suffering there. His teammate, incidentally, Frank Schleck, has been going very well. And in fact, he said he's surprised at his form. He's feeling nice and relaxed. The Luxembourg champion, you just caught sight of him. Of course, Andy, his brother, is no longer part of this Tour de France, along with some other notable names. Great to see Sky still here, and very much so with Richie Porte, and some chops and changes as they just try and push on up front. And in fact, this group tries to thin itself out. It started to happen, Sean. They're down to 20 now, and the likes of Cancellara suffering. I guess that tells you just how much hard work they're doing to make this break stick.
Yes, well, of course, you know, this terrain, it's a little bit too difficult for Cancellara, and we're seeing, you know, this group, as expected, is going to start splitting a lot. And at the front at the moment, we can see Europcar are very much to the fore, but they're not as many as we had in the earlier part. We had 4 riders, and we have seen Pichot, Criminero has disappeared, Reza has also disappeared for quite a long time. Now we have Gauthier here, who is just on the front but not committing like the other ones for the moment, and they're playing a bit of the waiting game, see who's going to go in the attack. I think Europcar are going to play both cards here. Pierre Roland, of course, and Gauthier as well. He's a real good climber in his own right. I think that, you know, they're just waiting, and hopefully some of the other riders will attack, and they will just, you know, mark the attacks from here on.
I think you're absolutely right. Gauthier was one of those we had a look at the start of the day. Pierre Roland likewise. Thought Tommy Vogler might be engaged today, but I think he's been quite busy of late and doesn't look to be his best at the moment. It is long as well, and Tommy, possibly at his age now as well, once you're getting into the 35s and beyond, if you are a constant feature in an attempt to get into breaks, it can weigh you down just a little bit.
I think with Europcar they probably have enough riders up here with 4. Otherwise we're going to have all the team up in this break. And yes, it's you know, with 4 riders, and with Pierre Roland, who is the man for the general classification, I think this is a real good move at the moment. But there's a lot of tactics being played here, and nobody wants, you know, to secure the tempo setting on the group at the moment. We can see they're all across the road, and it's Europcar who has done, you know, the big majority of the work to get to this point, and now they're trying to get some of the other riders to commit and put in some sort of an effort.
Mark Stein welcomes Tony Martin. Get through this, he'll have a little downhill section. It's that bowl we were talking about at the top of the mountain. Incidentally, he'll have a more testing percentage to deal with, albeit only with 1.4 kilometers of it. And as you can see, Pichot is the latest to be absorbed by those chasing on the main peloton, and of course being led by Astana, who are doing a great job today. What the cost will be of that in terms of support for Nibali tomorrow is a massive question.
Yes, well, there's a lot of questions I think we will see answered tomorrow, hopefully. But Tony Martin, as we get, you know, closer to the top of this climb, the advantage, you know, still over 3 minutes at the moment, and when you look at the way the group of Pierre Roland were working there and really pushing on from Eurocar, they committed a lot of the riders. Tony Martin is putting in a big performance here, and it looks like now that is going to be the man for stage victory. He's certainly on the road to doing that.
He's gone all in with 50 kilometers to go. He will pass by the main climbing test of the day. Done and dusted. Now he has one more peak ahead of him, albeit with another trough on this descent that he has to go in and out of before he's on the flatlands, and that hellish run for home, 21 kilometers. We don't know whether he's going to make it, but deep inside, we hope he does. That level of bravery is a rare thing, and that level of ability, to be honest, just to sort of bin the pain and tap out the rhythm is also a rare thing indeed. So those pursuing, Demarchi will come through along with the other group of breakaway riders, not that far behind. They're 3 minutes and 13 in arrears. 8 minutes and 4 is the main pack. And Cancellara just hoping he can stay with this a little bit longer. He's a man who could go for a good position late on. Cancellara, once he's dealt with these climbs, you can recover on such a long descent of 22 kilometers, and indeed have something left at the end. Moinard, latest to be caught, 8 minutes and 4, still holding. It's Tony Martin, despite the fact we've had some proper climbs today, is proving that in just about all terrain, he has something to offer.
Well, he's a huge talent, you know, an unbelievable, powerful rider. We all know him as a great time trialist, but when you see him on a terrain like today and the way he's been riding there with Demarchi out front all day and then just riding on, you know, he just can keep going and going. And I suppose last year when we see that solo breakaway in the Vuelta, it was just amazing the way he was holding off the peloton of riders and teams riding on the front, and then in the very end when he was about to be caught at 5k's to go, it was all over, and he just, you know, turned on the gas again, turned up the burners and held off and just caught in the final 5-10 meters before the line. And you know, it's Omega Pharma Quick Step. They have had to make adjustments with Mark Cavendish going out so early in the race with that big crash. They have done a great job. Of course, they've got a stage victory already, and they're going to go on today, and looks like they're going to get a second stage victory for Omega Pharma Quick Step.
Nice to see Ricardo doing a little bit of leading duty here for NetApp Endura, a team that's been a regular feature of the breaks, incidentally. They've done a superb job. British Environmental as well have been heavily represented, but a bit thin on the ground this time by, you might think. Well, Brice Fayeur and Bidot also part of the fun. Nice to see Katusha as well offering up some views, and good to see that Rodriguez is also getting back to form, Sean. We don't think he'll be at his peak until we get to the Pyrenees, and of course he's on the Spanish border, and it'd be great to see him back at his best at that point.
Well, I think he's definitely coming back very quickly and back, you know, very aggressive. As we can see, he's going again for the mountain classification here. We did see him previously having a big sprint here, and that is going to be objective because he's out of the general classification totally, and you know, it's all to ride for here in the polka dot jersey, and he's, you know, picking up a lot of points here today.
Fantastic. Great to see him back. He's a lovely man, by the way. He's just a regular television pundit in Spain. He is the chosen one, essentially, in terms of voice. They love him. They love hearing from him. He has a very nice way about him. But as you can see, in a combat situation, he's not averse to laying it on the line as well. Roland going for the rain jacket. They believe this is set in, and we are set for an almighty descent, and it's going to be the hare chased by the hounds, albeit a very select group. Can Tony Martin make it? We are keeping absolutely everything crossed that he does. I just love to see history being written, and what better platform than the Tour de France. And if he does get home, it's going to be one of those classic days of Tour de France racing that we remember. An individual coming out on top. We'll see you in a moment. Tony Martin, he's 2 minutes and 10 clear of Demarchi. He is 3 minutes and 10 clear of Roland and Galopin, the main threat from the breakaway group. Galopin may well be heading for a yellow here if the peloton don't get itself in order. Right now they're 8 minutes and 23 seconds behind this man, Tony Martin, and we're speculating as to whether he's going to make it all the way. Well, from the front to the back, Cheng Ji, incidentally, we have a little feature on him. He's in danger of being cut off today. He was in danger of that yesterday, just made it home in time. However, first Chinese rider in the Tour de France. He's doing a lot of work. He wasn't the most popular addition, even within the team, to Giant Shimano, but he was fantastic for Kittel, and indeed leading on the chase to tee his man up in the early days. So credit where it's due, I guess. We'll have that feature for you in a little while. John will be bringing you that. This is a team under pressure. Can they bear it? We're going to find out. The chase is on. Equal to it seem to be these boys. Interestingly, that Tinkoff Saxo are diminished. I don't know whether it's because of the work rate that they engaged yesterday in order to get Contador up to what he thought was a stage win. Of course, Kadri took the stage ahead of him. He slightly miscounted, but nonetheless, he showed his class. Nibali not shining as brightly, but his team today are having to do the duty of racing on. It looks, for the time being at least, that Galopin's got a great chance of going into yellow. They wouldn't mind that because they believe that the high mountains belong to Nibali, provided he can keep his gap to Contador. Right now, Tony Martin has a fantastic gap over absolutely everybody. Nearest men to him, including Demarchi and the pursuers, 3 minutes and 12 down. The pack, 8 minutes 31. There are a group of sprinters that are in trouble, 15 minutes down, including Renshaw. We have Bauer there, Kittel, Ji as well, Cheng Ji, the Chinese rider who did so much work for Kittel early on. And over the line they come. The KOM has been dealt with by the pack, but it's a thinning out pack right now. And we're still asking questions as to whether Astana will mind handing over the jersey to Galopin. I don't think they'll mind too much with the mountain ranges still to come and the real tests, provided the cushion stays the same between themselves and Contador. Contador's riding alone, Sean. Is he resting his team? Is it as simple as that, or are they paying the price for being so busy yesterday?
Well, I'm not sure if he's alone. We've seen some of the riders, Michael Moorcock, we see Tosato losing contact there, but Tosato was the one, yes, but Nicholas Roach, Michael Rogers, Rafa Mike, they must be still in this group of Contador, as we can see there. Going up the climb. I'd be surprised if we've lost all his teammates. It's just the ones who are a little bit more in difficulty in the climbs, and Tosato, of course, is the one who's been doing a huge amount of work in the last days on the flat stages. So I think the better climbers are still about Contador in that leading group of favourites.
Tony Martin was asked at the team presentation whether it was something along the lines of what's it like working for Mark Cavendish, and the question basically stunned him a little bit, and then as he fought for the words, it went on longer and longer. There's kind of an uncomfortable silence. Everybody laughed, including Mark, and then finally Tony Martin as well. He just didn't know what to say. He didn't find the words, and he is a quiet man. He leaves his legs to do the talking, and right now they are screaming. He's ignoring the pain, but he's got a great chance of making this home. Why do we say that with such a long distance to go? Because a lot of it is downhill, and he's on this final little climb. In fact, in 700 meters, he can have some fun, Sean, if you can describe this as fun, I guess.
Well, he will be in the terrain where he'll be a bit more comfortable. When you're out here in front on your own and being out for such a long time, over a lot of climbs today, it is going to start hitting you, and you can feel the pain on the final climbs more so. But on the descent, Tony Martin is a real strong rider, and he will be happy to get onto that long descent of 20 plus kilometers, 22 kilometers I think it is, and then the flat section will be also difficult because that final 20 kilometers, but the advantage he has got over the breakaway, over three minutes, that is a major advantage. And back in the breakaway with guys who are riding for places in the general classification, want to move up, as we see Pierre Roland Galopin, they will want to keep the pace high, but I don't think they will be able to get that up to that rate to cause any problems for Tony Martin. He should be able to hold on comfortably for the stage victory.
He is nearly there. His last real trial as far as climbing is concerned. And then he starts time trialing. Downhill, he's a master. The road has dried just for him. It may well rain behind him, which will give him a little bit of extra advantage. Such is the bagatelle that he's playing at the moment, and he is playing a game, but it's one he enjoys. It may well not be to the liking of some of those behind him, but this man really can go for it at distance, and especially when the terrain favours him, and it's about to fairly shortly. He would never regard himself as the best of the climbers, but today he has punished himself where he's needed to, and here he goes. At last, he must feel a rush of relief. Time to make some adjustments. Just checking that his calipers, incidentally, are clear of the wheel, so that he gets a nice free spin down. This is DeMarchi, who was in that last duo out front, including Tony Martin, of course. Well, DeMarchi about to be caught by the pursuers, and it's a body of men that numbers 20. It's about to be 21 as DeMarchi gets absorbed. Some real talent in the chasers, though, as well, Sean. If Martin has any kind of issue along the way, then these guys will pounce.
Well, we can see here in the chasing group, there's a number of riders starting to contribute on the front. They all know they have pretty much made it now to get over this last little bit here, and they feel they can do that, and they have a lot of interest. The general classification men are the ones, of course, who are really want to push on here, and Brice Feliu from Bretagne Sèche, he's also a general classification man. We did talk about Machado, Roland, of course, who can make inroads, and Tony Galopin, who has an opportunity here to take yellow with the peloton at the moment. Such a far way off Galopin, he is in a great position, and he will want to push on as well. But that group has lost a lot of the guys that were originally in this breakaway. We can see there's probably about 12, maybe 15 maximum. There's certainly not 20, as we see Rodriguez pushing on again. More King of the Mountains points.
Yeah, more King of the Mountains points for him, and he wants them, and he looks nice and fresh, which is great news for cycling fans. He's a lovely man. He's not going to challenge for the yellow jersey, saving disaster, of course, for those ahead of him. We wouldn't wish that on anybody, but the King of the Mountains competition, he's very much alive in that, and he's picking up plenty of points right now. Good to see him flourishing once more. He took some big hits out there this season, the ribs mainly. He arrived at the Giro d'Italia with 3 broken ribs, didn't tell anybody, and then picked up another couple. He's a real fighter, despite his kindly nature when he's off the bike. 40.8 kilometres to go, 8 minutes and 23, and significantly, let's just remind you of the gap that Tony Martin holds now over Rodriguez, who's the nearest man to him, 2 minutes and 55. Now, Rodriguez, not bad at going down, but he's no Tony Martin on these descents. It'll come as a relief as well when they finally come through this point to the peloton, and indeed to Nibali, who'll take some free energy on the way down, as we've mentioned. There is Paulinho working his way for Tinkoff Saxo as part of this group. Yes, 2:35 we're hearing Martin and Rodriguez, so we have a proper gap for you there as well. Gaps are what it's all about. Will Galopin be in yellow today? There we are. I think we'll have a new polka dot jersey leader as well. The man who's been sporting that today, looking a little bit second-hand. Yesterday's stage winner, he looked absolutely superb, did Kadri. But don't forget who he beat yesterday. It was a successful break then, albeit with a group staying together much deeper into the climbs. This is about one man and one man's ability to do it all alone. It looks like it's a job done for these boys. Time to take on some sustenance. Mercado, good job by him. Rodriguez has got all the points he is possibly going to take today. None more left in King of the Mountains competitions. And so there might well be a coming together, certainly by some of those who've been in the break, as the pack chases on. Sean, 39.1 kilometres to go, a little bit less than that now. It's going to be high speed for much of the remainder of the day.
Well, it is going to be high speed. A lot of it descent, of course. We have, with 38 kilometres to go, there's still 18 kilometres of descending here. 20 kilometres of the flat, so 18 kilometres of descending, and that is going to be a very rapid one, as the flat section of the 20 kilometres as well. With Tony Martin here, he is going to continue on time trialling, get into that time trialling position, and he will get to the finish real fast. And we can see there a little bit of more urgency in the final kilometre and a half to the top of the climb between what's left of the breakaway. I think they will start pulling together as well. They know now they've made it to the top, they're safe, and they will make the descent at a good rate. But that final 20 kilometres, if they work real well together, they could eat into the advantage of Tony Martin, but I don't think they will be capable of closing him down.
Well, we're going to see some attacks out here as well. Why not? BMC have had an interest in this, and it's about your descending abilities, I guess. They've got Greg Van Avermaet and Amel Moyna, who started off as part of the day. There will be some kicks on this descent, let's just remind you. There is that last categorised climb with Tony Martin taking those 2 points. But just under 8 minutes, I think, as we mentioned earlier on, that Nibali will lead this group down, lead his men down. Nobody to help out Tony Martin, and he doesn't really need them. He's giving this descent a lot of respect. We cast our minds back, Sean, to the Vuelta. We've done it earlier on today. When he was almost caught, in fact, the television cameras tricked us a little bit. They were within about 3 seconds or 5 seconds of him at the very most. And then we had a long shot, and we assumed that Tony Martin had been absorbed. His ability to counterpunch is outstanding. And so even if it's getting a bit hairy towards the end, you've got to hold some belief for him.
Well, I think that was an unbelievable performance in Vuelta. I'm not sure if would he be capable of doing that again.
I hope for my heart's sake.
In the circumstances, but I don't think he'll have to do that, because it's just under 3 minutes we see there back to the chasing group, and he is going to descend pretty much at the same rate as the chasers will be. So 3 minutes on advantage with 20 kilometres to go with a Tony Martin, unless he really runs out of power, runs out of gas, gets the hunger knock, as we say, as we can see Phil here getting into a little bit of difficulty, leg out and a bit of panic for but getting around it. But yeah, the 3 minutes advantage, I don't think we will see anything danger wise for Tony Martin in the final kilometres here.
Wow. Brice Fillot with a squeaky saddle moment, I think we're going to call it, counterbalancing himself by unclipping his left and just using that leg as a weight. A little bit of pavé today, just to remind us where we've been, and indeed that there's a lot of punishment still to come. A few moments ago, we of course saw Tommy Voeckler just showing his nose. There's going to be a few that just want to give themselves a little bit of distance out here, and Pinot is one of those. They're just relaxed, nice and fluid. Some going for rain jackets, Sean. We are getting a bit of a breeze at the end. One's just blown through the commentary position and disturbed our notes. We are open windowed here, and the wind could well be a factor. It's coming in from the southwest. It's going to be a crosswind for much of the approach, turning into a tailwind for the last 3K.
Yes, well, in that final 20 kilometres it could be a problem for the peloton, and if they really start pushing on here, we could see a little bit of echelons forming. Thibaut Pinot, of course, he is the local here, and just want, I think, to be out front of the peloton as they start the descent. He doesn't like the descents. Remember last year on one of the earlier mountain stages on the descent, he just wasn't able to follow the pace. So I think it's just with fear. He knows these roads very well, but a bit of fear there, want to get onto the descent ahead of the peloton.
Vals is going for it for Lamprey Merida here out of the break. There'll be a bit of this happening. Those who are more confident on the descent will quite happily go to the front. You'll see some stretching. They will probably still come together and work together. It might be we have something of a selection, though. It certainly won't be 20 by the end, or it's 19 already. Let's just assume it's going to be around a dozen riders, perhaps between 8 and 12 then, that go for it. So it'll be them that are on chasing duties. Still 7 minutes and 45, the yellow jersey. I'd be fascinated to look back as well and see just how Nibali is doing on this descent. Still some rain as well showing itself on the camera lens right now, but it looks like a dry road surface. And with Galopin as well, with very much an interest in the day, there is plenty to play for, and the Lotto Belisol rider close at hand. He could be in yellow today, Galopin, Sean, and I think if they had to give it to somebody, they wouldn't mind giving it to him, especially with the mountains coming tomorrow.
Well, I think Galopin, he's pretty sure that he will take yellow jersey, unless that's the peloton finish at an unbelievably fast rate, and this breakaway really start to play about and start looking at each other. Otherwise, Galopin in the position he's in, he's only 3:27 down, so with the advantage on the yellow jersey, he has to be able to do that. And we can see here the peloton are certainly not taking any risk. Astana controlling on the front here, and any little bit of a downhill as they're on at the moment, just negotiating it with safety.
Well, there you are, there's your answer. Nibali, believe me, if he was worried about holding on to that yellow jersey, would be leading his men down. At the moment, he's just taking as much protection as he can. It's not that they're better descenders than him, it's just that he's not engaging full power right now. We were speculating as to how they might manage to get rid of the yellow jersey, which is a bit of a burden during the early stages of the Tour de France, and don't forget they've been in possession of it since he took it on his shoulders into Sheffield with that fantastic stage win. Nibali, he's not thinking about that right now. He's got the stage win, he's now thinking about overall glory, and it is a difficult thing to manage, and they may well have been offered an opportunity of getting rid of it, not to one of the main challengers for the title, notably of course Alberto Contador, who is close at hand with Nibali right now, as you can see for Tinkoff Saxo in their Deglo yellow and blue. This man, well, he's in a red zone at the moment, but he's quite comfortable with it. He's been here before. It's 8 minutes and 4, the gap back to yellow. It's a narrow gap to the pursuers, but it's still just shy of the 3-minute mark, and it sounds like a tall order with 34.1 kilometers to go. But he's a good descender and he's a fantastic time trialist, and we think he might just make it even now. It's a bit of a Rubik's Cube, but negotiating the handover of a yellow jersey, but I think it's presented itself as a great opportunity to Nibali just to shed the responsibility for a while, and I think he'll take that.
Well, it looks like that's the case, and when you make the calculation, of course, we can see here 8 minutes, just a fraction over for yellow jersey on Tony Martin out here in front, but that chasing group is almost 3 minutes behind Tony Martin, so that gives 5 minutes of an advantage for the breakaway on yellow jersey. And when you look at general classification standings, Tony Galopin the best place, 3:27, so there's not a lot of time to play about with there. And I think if Astana were really wanting to hold on to yellow jersey, we would not see the picture of peloton that we see just some moments ago. They're rolling down. There was 2 or 3 riders at least from Astana on the front. That would not be the case. You'd have one line of riders if they were pushing at full pace. So it looks like that they want to try and just get rid of the yellow jersey for a number of days. And then you go look at what's to come tomorrow, a very difficult stage. Galopin, as we see here, he's the one who's pushing on. He know that they have to keep on working at it and keep this pace quite high. And then you have Pierre Rolland, who was in a good position as well. So in the days to come, maybe they could offload to somebody else. And Pierre Rolland, as we know, he's not finished with attacking. That's his style. He could be in the attack again tomorrow to try and take some more time back, because he's a long ways down the general classification.
He is, and don't forget, once we've dealt with all the mountains of the Alps, we then of course have an interlude before the mountains of the Pyrenees, and then we have an individual time trial, and time trialing abilities to the fore. It's part of the mix of becoming a champion, and you might well see that there is a brief hiatus in the take back of that yellow jersey, if indeed it's Nibali that takes it back. Tomorrow is a big day where we're going to have a bit of a prize fight. whether either of them is holding a yellow jersey or not, between Contador and Nibali. It'd be great to see that battle that we saw just a glimpse of yesterday being repeated. And I suspect we're going to have a proper scrap tomorrow, Sean, with some real high mountains for the first time.
Well, you're pretty much guaranteed a big battle on a stage where it's so difficult and so many mountains to be got over. And when you have a mountain top finish, as we have tomorrow, well, we all know Planche de Belfi, how difficult it has been. We've seen it 2 years ago, and it's going to create gaps, and certainly a battle between the big favourites.
Romain Bardet is the best placed Frenchman, by the way, at least coming into today. He's just suffered a puncture and he's getting himself back on. He's a little man with a massive heart and a great deal of talent, and he's had some great runs this year in the Dauphiné and of course in the Tour of Catalonia. And he's regarded as the future of French cycling. How often have you heard that said before? But, well, there's a whiff of truth about it this time by. 9th overall coming into today. We'll see how he goes in the high mountains. He's not a brilliant time trialist, which is probably going to mark against him, although it does pitch and roll the time trial that we will have on the penultimate day. That's a long way away. A lot of work in the mountains to be done. But Bardet just getting himself back in, helping himself to the road, and a water bottle is Tony Martin at the moment. Sean, we've said it before that you've got to basically bury the pain and just get on with it. It's what time trialists do. It's a long way to be suffering like that, though. This is going to be the longest time trial he's had, well, since the Vuelta last year.
Yes, well, it is something that to keep, riding along at a real fast pace, and we can see here the way the chasing group is getting organised. They're starting to relay, different rider taking position on the front and riding for 100-150 metres. Then another rider comes through, and that's where you conserve energy. You do your effort in the front, and the other riders come in front of you, and you get into the drafting. Where if you're on your own, you have to ride all the time into the wind. If it's a headwind, side wind, it's still difficult. And Tony Martin, he's got to do that now over the final number of kilometres. But he is, a real strong rider at that. That is his speciality. Where if you had a climber out here, a small lightweight guy, he would have major difficulty holding on to the advantage like Tony Martin has got.
This is how important Romain Bardet is. A couple of teammates being sent back to him. Didn't start as team principal, but has risen into that position, essentially. Bardet being helped back in by two very capable riders. Jean-Christophe Perrault, don't forget, starting as team principal in this one, and Christophe Riblon, who, as we know, can go very well when it comes to the mountains, but Bardet really is starting to shine. Samuel Dumoulin, their sprinter, also a diminutive figure and a name perhaps very, very familiar to you. This performance will be as well by the end of the day. Somebody asking what's the advantage of doing this, riding like this? It's just offering yourself the smallest profile you possibly can to the wind ahead. It's not comfortable, Sean, especially if you hit a bump. You'll be singing alto at the end of the day, but it's very effective if you could master it, but not something you could possibly advise anyone to do.
Well, unless you're a good bike handler and you're in competition, you've been doing that, well then your bike handler should be to the level you can do that. It's when you're on your own on a descent, where there's no potholes, that is the most important thing. If you have a road which is very bumpy and possibly some potholes, is a dangerous one, but it does keep your high speed without having to make an effort. And when you're on a downhill, if you get a couple of 100 metres of a recovery, it all counts and it's all very important.
Tony Galopin is riding for yellow, and why not? Bardet is riding for potential glory late on, possibly a top 5, who knows. Well, his teammates have worked hard to get him back into where he should be, and this is where he should be amongst the greats. For how long he thrives at this level is anybody's guess, but we wish him all the very best. Great to see Geraint Thomas as well doing a proper turn out here and working brilliantly for Richie Porte, who is also starting to just believe and display the talents that we know he's got, Sean. It was great to see him in such close proximity yesterday to Contador and to Nibali. It bodes very, very well for this race.
Well, he has made a big move in general classification yesterday because of his real strong performance, and now he's up there in third position, and 158 down. Perfect, to challenge in the big days to come in the Alps, Pyrenees. The team is all about looking after him. They haven't to control the race, and it will be interesting to see Port how well he can perform. He's been around at the service to bigger men in the team. Bradley Wiggins, of course, 2 years ago. Port, Froome last year, sorry. Port this year. He's the leader of the team, and now we will see what he's got and how much of a challenge he can put up for the overall.
It will be marvellous. Shake of the head. Not sure whether that was just taking perspiration away from the eyes. Tony Martin is averse to using spectacles on occasion, and I haven't got a front view of him, so I can't tell you. Watch how he goes into this corner. Smooth as silk. How's about that for a line? And indeed, engaging the power out of the curve. You saw him do a double curve a few moments ago. First left and then right. He's a master at work. He's so confident with his own bike handling, he allows himself the privilege of looking far ahead down the road, and that's the trick, Sean. You have to be unconcerned about what the bike is doing underneath you and tee yourself up for the next. It's about a fluid sequence of lines, and Tony Martin is just it's almost a showcase he's putting on for us at the moment.
Well, you're always hoping to get a good line coming into a corner. You make the calculation, but sometimes you have to correct it a little bit because the corner, it just goes around a bit more, and it tightens up a bit more than you have anticipated. And when it's dry, you can do that, but when it's wet, that's when it becomes dangerous. And when you're pushing, close to 100% on the wet roads, that's where you can have a slide off. But Tony Martin, he is a real good descender. Maybe not the best of one in the peloton, but up there with the top ones.
Well, the push on is coming from Galopin, as you can see, and indeed others further behind him. Galopin's bidding for the yellow jersey right now. He probably won't hold on to it for terribly long. It's a terribly long load ahead, though, a load to bear and a road ahead for Tony Martin. 25 kilometers he has to eat up right now, and the basking shark is at work. 8 minutes and 8 over the main body. It's about 3 minutes between this man who's in pursuit, Tony Galopin, and Tony Martin, who's up the road. The battle of the Tonys right now. 8 minutes and 8 back to the yellow jersey, and indeed the polka dot jersey out there. But as you can see from the double corrections which are being engaged in the corners, Tony Galopin is not as comfortable as Tony Martin. The thing that they have, both of them, is freedom to choose their lines, and it's Tony Martin that's making the best picks right now. I suspect that Galopin is possibly not being helped at all by the bike in front of him. He might be offered a bit of aero, I suppose. And in fact, if Tony Martin was behind, he'd be busy shouting at the motorcycle to get out of the way. However, you shouldn't be following a motorcycle's lines through there. You need to pick your own, and it can actually be something of a distraction on a descent to have the powered machine in front of you, Sean.
Well, depending also the pilot of the motorbike. If you have a real good one, when he goes into the corner, you can see he's braking. If he stays on the brakes for a longer time, well, then it's a bit tighter than maybe you might be expecting it to be. But if you have a bad one, well, then he's better out of the way.
Most certainly. And at the moment, Galopin is hexagoning in the corners. He's going in, straightening out, going in, straightening out, and every one of those corrections is playing into the hands of Tony Martin, who's been sailing into all of the lines so far. You see the rainbow stripes on his shoes. This is a multiple world time trialing champion. And you know what? In just 2 kilometers time, that's exactly what he's going to be. A time trialist, first and foremost. Forget about being a mountain goat, which he's dealt with today. He's got to put on another head, Sean, and it's a very, very good one.
Well, with the position of race, it's a really good one, because he knows that he has, a big advantage over the chasing group, and Galopin pushing on here. We can see the other guys a little bit further behind on this descent, and a lot of splits appearing here, and they all want to keep this pace, and Galopin more so, because he is the one who we did see virtual yellow jersey at the moment out on the road there, and he wants to get down this descent as quickly as possible. And Galopin, in his own right, he's a strong time trialist, but with 20 kilometres to go, he needs a number of riders to join up him very quickly when they get onto the flatter section and start working together. That way they will be able to hold on to this advantage over yellow jersey and the peloton of big favourites. That's what Galopin is concerned about. I think Tony Martin, that stage win done and dusted. They're not thinking of that. It's all about now conserving as much an advantage as possible over Nibali and the other favourites back in peloton.
Shake the legs out, why don't you? There's going to be a lot of that going on later on today. A whole world of hurt out there. Brice Fillon nearly got it wrong in a corner, and to be honest, I wouldn't want him on the inside of me at a moment such as this. He's not overly confident and finds himself at the back. The knees go out to counterbalance himself. The lines aren't brilliant, but hey, if you want lines, what about a script? Right now it is Tony Martin that is writing the story of the day, and who is going to be the hero? I think it might just be him. 21.3 kilometres to go. We are approaching the flat land. The wind will blow. A storm, well, storm clouds will possibly gather over some out here. There'll be a change in the yellow jersey, will be bound. And now it is time for Tony Martin to go on trial. Come on, Tony, for goodness sake, let's get this job done, Sean.
Well, he's doing the job at the moment, and we can see there, he's in that position. Get down on the drops of the handlebars and just power the big gear, and he can do that so well. You can see the guy, like, he is, a picture of sheer power, and that's where he excels most in time trial. That's where he has, a huge number of victories. World time trial champion, winning a lot of time trials in the big tours, and now he's going to just time trial this final 20 kilometres to the finish.
Galopin's here. He's got Demarchi for company. Oh, Cofidis Garcia has abandoned Alessandro Demarchi a little bit further back. I do beg your pardon. Getting something blasting through my headsets. We got Charel for AG2 a la Mondiale. Demarchi just a little bit further back, but is still within that chasing group. There is Tony Martin, and listen to the roar of the crowd. There's Galopin, there's the Roland group, which includes Demarchi, who was, of course, in the breakaway originally with Tony Martin for so long today. It's a solo effort that he's going to have to bring in. And with 20 kilometres to go, I think he's possibly got some belief here, Sean. I certainly have. He's got 3 minutes.
Well, I think he's got the belief for quite a long time, and his team, they will be relaying the information. Unless you really start hitting the wall with 20 kilometres to go, you could lose a lot of time, and that's where you have to be careful as well. When you're out in front in a two-man breakaway earlier on the day, you have to make sure you eat plenty, you drink plenty, and you continue doing that all the time. And if you do that correctly, well, then you should not have any problems where you get this hunger knock, as they say in cycling. And I think Tony Martin will be made aware of that via his director sportive right through the day.
Right then, let's talk about our approach into town. It's not terribly nice, Sean. It looks like the wind, incidentally, has blown through. We had a bit of a storm that kicked up earlier. Looking at the top of the trees, it doesn't look that bad on that part of the course. It's certainly not overly blowing where we are, and not 40 kilometres an hour, which was predicted.
No, it's certainly not 40 kilometres an hour here at the finish, but it's an area where you get out in the open after the Ballon d'Alsace. From experience in the past as well, it does be quite windy on occasions. We'll have to wait and see. We get pictures of Tony Martin now as he gets inside that final 20 kilometres, which he went through a little moment ago. We will see very quickly what way the wind is blowing, but I don't think it's as we've had seen in the past. It can blow much stronger, much more out here.
There we are, 8 minutes and 13 back to the yellow jersey. Galopin is 3 minutes adrift of our leader on the day, Martin. Galopin will be the leader overall if he brings this one in. At the moment, he's got a little bit of company, courtesy of Chirel from AG2 Le Mondial. The peloton, well, they won't mind this, and most of all, Nibali won't mind just getting rid of that yellow jersey tonight. They'll go into the mountains tomorrow, and of course then the rest day, and then we really are properly in the high ground. We had some climbs today, plenty of them. Right now, the master of them, and the man who has masterminded potentially victory today, doing it for Quick Step, aptly named team for a man who punches out an amazing cadence. Tony Martin is 18 kilometers away from taking a stage win, and what a fine one it will be. Individual class on display for you. Just behind, Galopin will be held shoulder high, and maybe even higher than that. The French have, of course, it's been a bit sparing, let's put it that way. They got a stage win yesterday. They're not going to get a stage win today, but they might well just get the yellow jersey. It certainly looks that way as he just looks over his shoulder, has a word with Chirel and says, come on, let's work together for this. Storm clouds are gathering, but over whom? Right, 17.4 kilometers to go. This is going to spin out rather nicely, and it looks like it is going to be Tony Martin that makes it home. Sean, we have a whole series of roundabouts, some options through which you better get right, because there's some definite quickest routes through.
Yes, there is some roundabouts to be negotiated, but with the position of race, Tony Martin alone out front, as we can see here. Galopin and Chirel, a little island in the middle of the road there, and wet conditions for the moment, although here the finish is much brighter, so I think it will dry up as we get closer to the finish, but I don't think it will be a major concern. They're fighting for positions here on the road, although it's a very large one, rubbing shoulders there, and back in the main peloton as well. I don't think they're going to be taking major risks, because the points classification, there's nobody really interested, and there's so many riders up the road, there's nothing really to be gained anyway. So I think all the guys behind Tony Martin here are going to, roll in, except for Galopin. He's going to try and keep on pushing, and he is, really panicking a little bit here. He wants to get out of this group, and it'll be interesting to see, will they hold off, as we see Pierre Roland 3:15, and they have to be quite a big group of riders here. Here we go, and I think Galopin is not going to be held off this group if they work at all together here.
This man's got to do all the work on his own. He's in a little sunspot at the moment, as if the good Lord is looking down upon him. Let's hope he's blessed, because 15.8 kilometers to go. He has 8 minutes and 9 at hand over the yellow jersey, but it's all about that 3-minute gap. Back to Galopin and Chirel and the rest of a charging group of pursuers. All would love a bit of individual glory. But to be honest, at the pace that Tony Martin can maintain at a situation like this, it doesn't look like a classic time trialing pose, I think you might say. His body is rather bent for that. He hasn't got that sort of, if you were to draw it, you'd have a flatter back, but it works extremely well for him. He's a big man that folds himself onto a bike absolutely amazingly well, and can generate a lot of power, Sean, in a very aero position, and that, I guess, is the secret.
Well, he's not the most stylish time trialist. When you look at Bradley Wiggins, for example, the way he's on his time trial bike or on his road bike when he gets into that time trial position. Tony Martin, hasn't got that, but he has got the power.
He certainly has. And I can almost hear the music now. He has got the power. And boy, does he use it beautifully. It may not be the most stylish, but it is the most effective. And you know what? He's heading for glory here. 14.6 kilometers from home. And at this pace, he's going to be very quickly delivered. Just over 8 minutes back to the yellow jersey, which is about to be handed over to Tony Galopin if things stay the way they are. And how relaxed do they look, Sean?
Yes, we can see here on the front, Astana just keeping a strong pace, but not anything where they would be capable of doing if they had to ride to try and hold on to this yellow jersey. And as we had talked a number of days ago, would they try and give the jersey to another team to take the pressure off Nibali himself, also off the team? And it's not an easy thing to do on the flat stages, to make the calculation. Today they got into that position, and they're definitely taking the advantage. And when you look at the breakaway out front, if they can do it for a number of days, well, it takes the Nibali, and we talked about that. When you're yellow jersey every day, going to the press conference, you get to the hotel maybe an hour, possibly an hour and a half, and when you do 10 days of racing, that all adds up, and fatigue, it does start to tell after a week, 2 weeks of racing.
Absolutely. You add up 7 days within which he has been, or 8 days I should say, in that yellow jersey. It is a week, 7. If you do take an hour and a half out of your day for every single one, he's done an extra day. All right, maybe not on the bike, but certainly of concentrated duty where he could have been resting. It's not just about that. There is the power of the jersey, of course, and indeed its magnetic effect, and just making those making you a little bit more of a target. I'm not saying that Nibali wouldn't have been anyway, but his team have worked to protect it. They've done the honour. They've honoured the jersey, as they say. But I think job done, at least for the time being, and it's a successful job as well in handing it over to Tony Galopin, who's not going to be a threat for the title by the end. So they will come again. Of course they will, and it will be in the high ground. Right now though, it's pan flat, it's wide open. The wind will blow on occasion in this part of the world. It was blowing earlier on today, but Tony Martin has blown everybody away. 12.8 kilometers to go as the main yellow jersey group come underneath that banner saying 20. You appreciate the gap that has been posted here by a man who is very, very capable in this situation. And finally, it didn't work for him, Sean, on the Vuelta. It's going to work for him here today.
It's certainly going to work from here today, and we can see he's not tiring at all. 2:55 back to Cherel and Galopin here on our picture at the moment, and they have been working very strong, well over 3 minutes. I think 3:10 back to that group of chasers. So they're all fighting to get back to Cherel and Galopin back in that group of the rest of the breakaway. But Tony Martin, no easing up certainly, and not tiring much, because 2:55, that is very little if he had lost anything from the bottom of the descent.
Well, sustaining 43 kilometers per hour, happy to take on a bunny hop. That's a man who's at ease with himself. He's not easing up at all. He allows himself a drink. His team will have delivered the gap to him. Well, we said an awful long time ago that he was capable of delivering this, courtesy of the terrain. He's read it beautifully, and he's ridden it absolutely spectacularly. His descending was impeccable to watch, Sean, and so is this.
Yes. Well, he is a real good descender, excuse me. He did not lose anything on the descent, and certainly on this final 20 kilometers of flat, time trialing his way to victory.
You can see the effort that Galopin is putting in here. He knows that this is going to be a headliner for him. Of course it is. It's more than that. It's going to be the yellow jersey. And he's constantly mindful of the gap between himself and those within the chasing group. He's got enough of a cushion overall to take the yellow jersey here. He won't hold it for that long when it comes to the high mountains, but he's done a terrific job today. The gap between himself and those from the main pursuers, just about 6 or 8 seconds right now. He'll take that. Just over 10 kilometers to go, and the duo of pursuers, Galopin and Cherel, have basically done their job. I think they will just fight to stay at the front of this group or within it, and in so doing it'll be Galopin in yellow today. They mustn't lose too much ground here, and I guess it was a little bit of a gamble going out there, Sean. They've got to match the energies of these guys now in order to secure yellow for Galopin.
Well, I think he'll have no problem matching it. Galopin was concerned back in that group there would be a lot of tactics and nobody want to contribute to the pace setting, so he decided to go out alone. And when Sherrill joined him, it was a good combination, just two, and if you can work really well together. But they've also been working back in the breakaway. What's left of that breakaway, we can see Europe Car once again very active, and we see Gauthier there, who wants to secure a very strong pace all the time, and that is for Pierre Lalonde, because they have the interests for the general classification. And if they contribute well here with 4 or 5 riders, well, then they will hold enough an advantage where Galopin should go into yellow.
These guys are going to be looking at each other thinking what might have been. I guess they'd have had to have different genetics to get the bettering of Tony Martin on a day such as this. You talk about qualities and how you match it to various terrain. This one will have been targeted by Tony Martin from some distance back. He's been on nursing duties, well, mining duties, I beg your pardon, supporting Kwiatkowski. He got found out yesterday, I'm afraid, and Tony Martin was allowed to have his head today, and boy did he use it. He's masterminded an assault on these guys. He went off very early. Let's not forget, Sean, he's been out there all day, essentially.
Well, he's been out there all day with Demarchi, a 2-man breakaway. It's a huge performance by him, considering they had this group of 20 plus riders chasing him. We had Europe Car with 4 riders in the breakaway, and we're chasing for a long time during the stage with some other riders as well, and he's managed just to keep that advantage, and still looking so strong. The advantage, you would expect him to be losing a lot of time here in this final 20 kilometers with tiredness, but it's not the case. Tony Martin, he just can go on and on and on.
On the podium of the day he's going to be, and it's going to be the top step. He is so fabulous in these kind of circumstances, and I'm just so pleased for him that he's managed to deliver after the heartbreak of the Vuelta last year, where he had a day such as this and got caught within sight of the line. Provided nothing goes wrong on the roundabouts which are just about to be introduced to him, he sailed through that one nice and straight, then he's going to be okay, and he's finally going to have his day. And what a relief it'll be to him that he can finally put that disappointment on the Vuelta to bed. Well, they're starting to box clever, perhaps, these guys. It's for minor places, you understand, at the end of what has been a grueling day. There's more punishment to come tomorrow. It's kind of like a rude sting at the end of 10 days before they finally get to go and lick their wounds on the rest day, the first of 2. There'll only be a 5-day gap, incidentally, 5 stages until the second rest day. I guess in terms of importance, this one is the big one. But there's some big mountains ahead. Mountains to climb. Well, I guess there was some hills to deal with today, and a whole load of descending and time trialing. And that's why Tony Martin decided that this was something he'd aimed for. I guess somebody like Cancellara would have been a feature, perhaps, at one time. He's sort of changed his body style. It's not exactly his kind of terrain. Great support he's been offering up as well in the opening week, and maybe he's just left something a little bit behind, something that Tony Martin has had in terms of an advantage, in terms of strength and belief. Sean, we believe, so does he now. This must be a great relief for him.
Yes, well, it's all about just concentrating here, just keep focused, and certainly not to lack your concentration as you go into the final number of kilometers. The roundabouts, the corners to negotiate, do not leave anything distract you for the moment. And with the advantage he's got, of course, he will be aware of that it's just a matter of now continuing his efforts and ride at 100% all the way to the finish. And I think he knows with a number of kilometres already that the stage victory is his. And what a performance, being out there all day. It's not been a case of being in a breakaway of 10 or 15 guys attacking the last number of kilometres and right away solo in that way. He's been out there, 2-man breakaway, held off a group, as I said, of 20 riders all day over terrain where Tony Martin would have a little bit of difficulty, because those hills, or we can call them mountains really, they've been over today. It's one of the big performances of Tony Martin.
3 minutes and 9. The gap is coming down, and Pierre Rolland is just pushing on here. He's thinking about moving himself up in the classification. Let's not forget the overall classification, as Nibali and Contador just ease off. He's not had the best of runs, Pierre Rolland, but then again, he kind of chooses his days wisely. Look. 3 minutes 10 with a heavy accent and a big slab of the hands. He offers a low 5. He'll take that, and suddenly the speed changes yet again. He's getting faster, Sean, not slower.
Well, he's still going at a real fast rate, and we can see David Bramati there, the Director Sportive of Quickstep. He's come alongside Tony Martin a number of times. I think the wind direction is coming from the right, and he's just staying here, give him a little bit of shelter, help him a little bit along, and still going at 44 kilometers per hour. And the congratulations coming out very early, still over 5 kilometers to go, but they know the advantage they've got. There's no danger.
You've got 3 minutes. Give me a low 5. Yeah, we've gone for a high one. It could have been tragedy. 5.6 kilometers to go. He's going to hit a roundabout fairly shortly. It's in at 12 o'clock, out at 3, so he'll do a quarter of it. Galopin must also be feeling fabulous at a moment such as this. Be a broad smile from him, and the French public are going to absolutely love it. They won't mind lending this day to Tony Martin, but it is Galopin who will take over the yellow jersey today, and Nibali will not mind lending that to him either, because of course tomorrow it's the mountains, and I guess a little bit of pressure off ahead of the rest day, and then even more alpine peaks to come. We're in the Alps, of course, and then of course the Pyrenees later on. He's been under the 5 kilometers to go, Banner. There's a whole wasp's nest behind him right now, but Tony Martin is heading for victory. These guys wanting to put as much pace between themselves, or distance between themselves, and a relaxed and relaxing Astana and Nibali with Contador in attendance. So the main GC contenders are behind this breakaway group of pursuers, but the lone man up front is Tony Martin. He's coming over the bridge now with 4.5 kilometers to go. This is the Lille River he's going over. He has a roundabout of which he has an option as to which way to go, and I guess, to be honest, he could take either way. He could probably stop and have a cup of tea, to be honest. He's got a fabulous advantage, and he's maintaining it. You see these guys, they're on that little ramp coming up to the bridge, and they are grinding it out. The hurt that they're displaying, Sean, is not being matched by Tony Martin. He looks amazingly relaxed.
Well, that's his style when he's there, going at 44, 45 kilometers per hour. It's amazing the way he can make it look so easy. It's unfair, really, but we can see here the guys on the front who are really interested. Machedo from NetApp Enduro, he's also very much up in the general classification. He's at 6.07, so he have interest. We see Phil Yu here, he's at 10.23. Roland, as we talked about a lot, 7.34, and the man who is going to be the big winner of the day for general classification, Tony Galopin, at 3.27. So all those 4 riders, we can see they are really riding, giving their 100%, because they know they're going to move up big time in general classification.
Their pace is nothing about trying to catch Tony Martin. It's about putting distance between themselves and this group. We have, of course, the yellow jersey on the back of Vincenzo Nibali. He's going to lend this. Well, hopefully for him, he's going to lend it. He's certainly going to be handing it over today to Tony Galopin. We are going to be so pleased for this man. He's delivered it after an amazing day. 48 kilometers an hour. He's not getting slower. He's just getting faster. He's got this thrill at the moment, and it's going to be the thrill of victory as we come into Mulhouse or Mulhouse, depending on which part of the border you're from. It's been fought over this part of the world. 2 world wars. It's changed hands. Well, right now it's in the hands of Tony Martin. He is conquering this day and doing it in amazing fashion. 2.8 kilometers to go. He just has to get round a double roundabout, a nasty 90-degree left-hander. Then it'll be the Flamme Rouge and relief. My goodness, what relief it will be. Well, he's not slowing down at all. And but he looks, as we said, amazingly relaxed. Smile for the camera. Thumbs up. Well, that's a long way out to celebrate, Sean, but he's got the time and he knows that he's got this.
Well, I think we see the celebrations have started a long ways out, plus 5 kilometres out. We see with Bramati, they knew that, yeah, it's in the bag for Omega Pharma Quick-Step with Tony Martin, this stage victory, their second stage victory. And you know, when we see the crash of Mark Cavendish in the earlier part of the race, well, then we're concerned that, you know, Omega Pharma would struggle in this race, but not at all. 2 stage victories with a week racing, and what this will do for the team now for morale-wise, and of course they have other men as well. Kwiatkowski yesterday, we did see him getting into difficulty, still young Jersey classification leader, and it just makes the race for everybody when you get a second stage victory so early in the race.
Back of the net, I think you might say, on the World Cup final day. Mark Cavendish will be punching the air, albeit with his good arm and his good shoulder. We wish him a speedy recovery. Trentin did it, don't forget, on stage 7 into Nancy. And here we are into Mulhouse. And Tony Martin is going to do it as well. These guys are doing it for themselves. They are trying to put as much distance between they and indeed the yellow jersey, and in so doing, boosting their chances for overall glory finally. It'll be Tony Galopin that takes yellow, which is why the camera is dwelling on them right now. He's coming to the fore. It'll be a glorious crossing of the line for him as well, let's not forget. And a little bit of change then in the guard at the top, at least ahead of the big climbing day tomorrow. Tony Martin heads for the Flamme Rouge. He sails underneath it, maybe just allows himself a little easing off the pace. He has dealt with all the corners. There's a few little modest bends in the road for him to take. This is one of the last, and the line doth beckon, and what a relief it will be. He's a fantastic character. He's a quiet man. He lets his legs be as loud as they possibly can be on a day like today. And the sound of his success will echo through the mountains. He has delivered. This is a big one. It's a big one for Quick-Step. It's a big one for a big time trialling man. And 600 metres from home, he can just ride this one in. Tony Martin has picked a day. He put a pin in it, and he's put a sword to absolutely everybody. What a performance that one was. Not only of climbing, not only of time trialing, but of sheer individual guts and verve on display for all of you to see. Tony Martin, we have found you. We've found your day as he finds success, and they hit the hoardings as if to say, we salute you. Just listen to that. Tony Martin. What a guy. We throw our minds down the road, and these guys have put some distance, as we said. Done themselves all kind of famous as far as the GC is concerned. They have 3 minutes and 5, incidentally, in arrears to this man. They've got about 4.5 minutes over the chasers. Tony Martin takes the polka dot jersey as well as the stage. These guys, well, it will be they that take the yellow jersey. I guess they'll race for this, and it may well be Fabian Cancellara, will it, that has a little squirt late on. This is that left-hander, Sean. It's podium places on the day, and this counts for your Palmares. They'll like to be as well positioned as they possibly can. You care to pick somebody who's going to spring out from this group?
Well, I think there's a few guys here. We can see BMC, Greg Van Avermaet, of course, in a really good position, and I think they are the ones who maybe haven't been contributing a huge amount, because they have not as much to gain as some of the other ones we have seen, and it's Europcar who has been, you know, contributing most, trying to keep the advantage to the minimum for Tony Martin, and hoping that they would catch him on the climb, the final climb of the day at the top to the Ballon d'Alsace, but no way. He was just so powerful out there today, untouchable, as we can see the sprint starting to wind up, and it looks like BMC and they should be the fastest ones in the sprint here, because haven't been contributing as much as some of the other riders.
Monaro it is that's out front. It's Fabian Cancellara that's just staying close at hand. He'd like to maybe just add another little stage podium to his palmares, and they're picking it up, and Giant also getting involved, as you can see, just towards the end. It really is, though, about Galopin as they enter this last 700 meters or so, and still they don't really want to reach out and grab for it. I think Greg van Avermaet is possibly going to start as favourite here, just being led out by Monard. As you can see, Amel. But they're spreading wide across the road, and Fabian Cancellara still looks reasonably fresh into this one. It is not, of course, the winning moment. Nonetheless, it means something to these guys. GBA going for the GBH. Cancellara staying with him. Rolling with it. It's been a puncher's day, and is Cancellara going to get to the 4? Yes, he does. Cheeky about it as well. Good pace at the line, 66.3 after such a long and arduous day, and we look further back, and this is not a team in a hurry, Sean.
No, and haven't been for a long time, as we see Tony Galopin here coming in with Pierre Rolland at the very end of the group. Not surprising, because they have put in the effort, and a little bit of congratulation there from Pierre Rolland.
He's in the yellow jersey. He loves that. Emotions flooding through. France will be pleased. We go into the 14 Juillet tomorrow, and they've got the yellow shot.
Yes, what a past 2 days for the French, with the stage victory yesterday. Today taking over, the race leadership. Great for the French and for their race, and of course, an important day coming up. The important one, I suppose, 40.9 kilometers the average for today's stage. And when you look at the profile of the stage, up and down mountains all day, that is such a fast stage. And considering we only had 2 men out front who were doing all of that riding, and Tony Martin, of course, in the end, a monster performance.
Chapeau to him. He is a monster. We call him the basking shark, courtesy of his open mouth. Well, he swallowed them all up today like Arctic krill. He feasted upon everybody. And more than that, he ate up the mountains, didn't he? Absolutely marvellous. Astana doing a good job of looking after Nibali. It's been a long, old series of days for them. They'll be pleased that this jersey is going to somebody who's not a danger in terms of the classification, and absolutely locked together, Alberto Contador and Nibali. We still believe they are the main men. There are others showing their nose, though. Richie Porte is not that far away, as you can see right now. And some are just starting to find their form. It's been good as well to see Rodriguez back approaching his best. Frank Schleck as well is also looking more and more comfortable. It bodes very well for some good contests into the mountains, Sean, and mountains we have.
Well, this will get a lot of riders back into the reckoning on the general classification, because we talked about the 4 men we have up here, and that makes the race more interesting, because those guys now, they cannot be allowed to go into a breakaway. And Pierre Rolland, we've seen in the past, he is that type of rider. He's going to try it again. Phil Yu, it'll be interesting to see how he will defend in the next days, because he is going to move up in general classification very much. Macedo, also a very good climber, and he can really perform well in the mountain stage to come. Is he at that level? We will see tomorrow a little bit in that way. And I think Astana are the ones who will be happy this evening, because to get rid of the yellow jersey for a number of days, will we see Nibali getting back into that? That is the big question. But it takes the pressure off the team, takes the pressure off of Nibali, and I think that is going to be an important thing for this Tour de France victory. If he's capable of challenging Contador, we will see a little bit of a clearer picture tomorrow, with a very difficult finish on the final climb of the day.
We await the Planche de Belleville, and we await your company as well. Right now, the crowd at the line are waiting to cheer over the yellow jersey, which is about to be handed over, of course, to Tony Galopin. Great to see these guys as well, and just know that we have a feast of climbing to come, and the big beasts are going to show themselves in the mountains, and that just only adds more joy to us. Just under the Flamme Rouge right now. This is going to be quite a gap. We'll count it back for you. Thank you for your company today. We've had difficulty getting to you, and some of your thoughts, courtesy of course, the mountains and the climbs that they've all been over. But always welcome, and of course we'll spare our time for you tomorrow and your opinions. In they come. It's a respectable welcome for the main contenders. They have been joined in their number. It's not such a select group now that we will think about tomorrow when the real mountains begin. They'll then take a day's rest before they start punishing themselves in the Alps. Big smile from Contador. He's happy with the day, and I guess happy to have sat on behind an Astana team who've just been a little bit more at ease, but have had to work hard nonetheless. And there it is, 7 minutes and 48 down on the winning time today. The group of GC contenders has just expanded, and so has the prospect of a great Tour de France. You never know when it's being ridden just how big it's going to be, but it's got all the ingredients of being a very special one. The special one today was Tony Martin. Look at the margin. 2 minutes and 45 over the other great time trialist, of course, that's here, Fabien Cancellara. Greg van Avermaet in third place ahead of Dumoulin, Monteaguti, and you look down that list, and it includes some great GC riders from France. Galopin is in yellow. Well, I guess you might say that Martin is absolutely in the pink, certainly on cloud 9. Terrific. Nice to see him deliver it after so often rolling those dice and unfortunately failing. He got it today, Sean.
Yes, well, he did just a fabulous ride today, and when Tony Martin is on the form he was today, and gets into the breakaway, even with a small breakaway of only 2 men out front, it just shows the talent he's got and the power just to keep on going for kilometre, hour after hour.
Marvellous, great display. We will be handing over, of course, LeMond on tour with Greg LeMond and Stefano, and we'll be bidding you a fond farewell well in a few moments' time. Thank you for your company. If you'd like to spare us your thoughts, incidentally, it's at Carlton Kirby, and indeed if you hashtag Eurosport Cycling, and don't forget John in Paris as well, who is waiting to take you through to LeMond on tour. John, your thoughts on the day? It was a great one.
An immense day, and I just think fantastic news for French cycling to have Tony Galopin in yellow tomorrow on the 14 Juillet. That'll be fantastic. First time since Tommy Verkler did it back in 2011. Great ride from him. Roland's got some good time back as well, which puts a few more of the French GC riders back in the picture, and just a bestial ride from Tony Martin.
He is a beast, especially in this kind of terrain. Sean.
Yes, well, provisional general classification, of course, Tony Martin, as we know, for quite a long time goes into the yellow jersey. Nibali holding on at 134, Thiago Macedo at 220, Fuglsang staying up there at 318, Richie Porte in fifth to 332, Kwiatkowski, Valverde, but Pierre Roland moving up to 8th place, 407, Contador down in 9th, and Romain Bardet into the top 10 at 413. So as we mentioned, Pierre Roland, Tony Galopin, having a great day. Thiago Macedo has also, moved big time up the general classification.
Bardet just dropping down a couple of places. Tony Galopin is our leader. Nibali, 1 minute and 34 of him. Confirmation of how they stand overall. Galopin in yellow, Nibali glad to hand it over, I am almost certain. Ricardo Fuglsang, Richie Porte, Kwiatkowski, Valverde, Pierre Roland worked so hard today, and Contador and Bardet making up your top 10. Well, thanks for your company today. Sean and I will now bow out, and we shall leave you in the capable hands of John and the boys for LeMond on Tour. Tony Martin, air puncher par excellence.
Tony, already 2 victories on the tour.
It's Tony Day in Mulhouse as Tony Martin with stage 9 of the Tour de France. Tony Gallipan wears the yellow jersey. Welcome to LeMond on Tour together with Greg LeMond and our guest of the day, thanks to Boke Malema, to come in right after the finish to talk and analyze this stage 9 of the Tour de France. Boke, first of all, how was it up there today? Long, tricky stage.
Yeah, it was a tricky stage. It was really hard from the beginning. A few long climbs, and then yeah, big group went away with Tony, and yeah, you know, you shouldn't let Tony ride because then you don't see him back.
Let's see the pictures of Tony Martin attacking from the very early climb, from the very first climb, and then keeping on and making all the way through the finish. Greg, what an effort was there from the
that looks like the finish. So I think he's already got the race victory. I think that's, yeah. What is this?
That's the finish of Tony.
Okay, it's not the start. So yeah, it was he's a very impressive rider, 3-time world champion time trialist, and obviously this was a good day for him to take off, and a lot of chasing, a lot of tactical strategy behind. But I want to know how you felt about the stage for yourself, and what do you think about the race pace and kind of the circumstance of the rain?
Yeah, the rain, there was not so much rain, only on the last climb a little bit, but the pace was really high on the first climb. And, you know, when the start is uphill like that, it's gonna be war from the start. You know, everybody wants to be in the break, and it was a big fight for that. And yeah, I think after 30-40k, or maybe even after 20, Tony and Damaki, they rode away. And then it was still a fight coming in a big group, you know, after them. And yeah, I was just in the peloton, comfortable and
taking it easy.
Taking it easy. Yeah, I was just looking to the GC riders, and was not. Yeah, I was lucky the group was away, and then it was pretty easy.
I'm just curious how you're feeling this year. And last year you had a really good Tour de France. Last week you didn't have the finish like you wanted. How are you approaching this year's tour?
Well, more or less like last year. I hope to finish as high as possible in the classement, and I'm feeling really good now. I think I'm about 10th in GC so far, and yesterday, I'm happy we're in the climbs now, and I'm looking forward to the Alps.
Getting over the pavé, the flat sections, and
yeah, Boke, let's have a talk about the start of the Tour de France for Belkin with this great win by Lars Boom on the cobblestone stage. That was such a big highlight for you guys at the start of the Tour de France. Here we see the pictures of these moments.
Yeah, it was great for the team. Big win, of course, especially in this epic stage, and yeah. Great for him, great for the team, and yeah, it's good to already have won a stage in the first week.
You guys are having a good Tour de France.
Yeah, so far it's all going really well, and it was 9 years ago that a Dutchman won a stage in the Tour de France, so it was about time.
9 years.
9 years, yeah, it's really long. So I hope it won't take 9 years again.
No. You got to beat that this year.
And that might help you also maybe to find a sponsor for next year, because you know Belkin is getting out of cycling. So such a win and maybe a good performance for you on the GC, that should help you to find a new sponsor for next year. I know that's the goal.
Yeah, for sure, it can help. We perform well this tour, and yeah, so far it's all going really fine with the win of Lars Boom, and I'm still doing well in GC, so we hope to continue like this.
Boke, last year you were 6th. You were very good until the last time trial. You had a crash. It was a tough time trial for you. Today, what's your goal? Where do you think you can go?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. There are a lot of GC riders, a lot of good riders, and I just intend now, but I hope to improve and hope to get in the top 5, and then we will see what's possible.
Boke, thanks a lot for coming in. We'll let you go because tomorrow it's going to be a very key stage with the Planche de Belfi. Before you go, we're going to listen to the winner of today's stage, Tony Martin.
It's always a big difference between success in time trial and stage race. In a race, you know that you won the race, and in time trial, most of the times I'm one of the earliest starters, so I still have to wait a long time before I know if I won or not. And yeah, the feeling on the last 5 kilometers when I knew I have it 100%, doesn't matter what happened, if there's a puncture or a crash with 3 minutes, I always could make it. The feeling was incredible, and I think I still could push 400 or 500 watts easy because I didn't feel pain anymore.
How did you plan that attack? You knew you had to take off very early in the stage to drop the marquee and not to be caught by the others?
Yeah, we both were together, and I knew that there were 20 guys or even 28 guys in the back of us by 30 seconds. And I knew if they will chase us down, it's going to be a hard day, because then you have to poker and look, maybe there are some counter attacks, and I don't want it to have these silly games, and that's why I decided, okay, doesn't matter what the marquee makes, I go full gas, and he just came with me. He agreed the strategy. I told him he can take all the mountain points, so maybe he could have the jersey. And yeah, at the end, on the last long climb, I knew they were coming closer and closer from the back, and I still had some power left, so I decided to go on my own and make a time trial. The last 50-60 Ks, and yeah, it's incredible. Also, I'm really proud that there were so many German fans on the side, so many German flags, and they all were shouting my name and give me so much motivation. So it was really a great day, one of the nicest I ever had in cycling.
Thank you very much, Tony. Congratulations.
It is true, there are many German fans on the streets of the Tour de France. We are close to the border, we are in Mulhouse, and also because it's a very special day. Tonight Germany play Argentina in the final of the World Cup. And you know what? Back in 1990, Olaf Ludwig won a stage on the Tour de France the day Germany beat Argentina in the final of the World Cup of Italy 1990. There's a funny anecdote there, Greg, about these references to football and cycling. But once again, let's talk about Tony Martin. What an effort he made, going from the very first climb and holding on all the way to the end.
Oh, what was impressive, what he said is that this is one of the best days of his life in cycling, and he's had a very good career, 3-time world time trial champion, 2 victories in the Tour de France and time trials, and it would be a classic. It'd be a great day for him, a rider like that. All the great, the overall riders are actually watching each other. It played right into it, and it kind of was an expected tactic today with a large group going away, but to do that as long as he did and in front was a huge effort. And but it's great to hear that Germans have done such an incredible Tour de France, and now that makes almost
fifth win.
Fifth win, yeah. Fifth victory.
3 by Marcel Kittel, 1 by Andrew Greipel, 1 now by Tony Martin. Tony Martin getting also the King of the Mountain jersey by 1 point on the Marquis and Belcadri. We go now to listen to a very happy sport director. Davide Bramati is on our Eurosport mic right here on the finish line.
Greg, Stefano, we are with a happy team manager, Davide Bramati. Davide, it's a huge performance by Tony Martin. This morning, he wanted to be in the breakaway, of course.
Yes, this morning Brian Holm he did a meeting before the start. The decision was that Tony and Backlans come to try going in the breakaway. And then Tony, I think he did the special stage. Everybody saw in television, I think was very nice.
And Tony Martin is a really big champion. We know him, his abilities on the time trial, but in the past we thought about him as a GC contender, but finally it was not really good in the three weeks races. Is it the start of the new Tony Martin?
But now we enjoy this moment because it's a very special day for us. Everybody knows he won 3 world champion, 2 team time trial, and then a lot race. And I don't know, we will see. Okay. For moment we enjoy this moment because it's a special days.
Okay, thank you very much. Grazie mille.
Davide Bramati has lost his voice, Greg. I'm sure he yelled on his car to celebrate Tony Martin win today here on stage 9 of the Tour de France. The other story of the day is Tony Galopin taking the yellow jersey on the Tour de France. Here we see the pictures of a happy Tony. We're telling you it's a Tony day today on the Tour de France. That yellow jersey must be a dream coming true for the young kid, for the young Frenchman.
Well, he's already placed well. He was in a great place, an overall GC to actually move up, and today is his day to do that, and it's an ideal strategy for Astana. Given that time away, now it's really going to be Tony's team that's going to have to control the race, and it's an interesting day from all teams' perspectives. You have Tinkoff, Astana, kind of watching the peloton. You're actually calculating who's in that front breakaway. There's 25 riders, 26 riders. And you're looking at the GC and the time, and you want to let those guys out, like a guy like Tony Galopin get out there. And if you can maintain a 2-minute, 3-minute deficit, it's ideal. Now his team's going to be riding to defend the yellow jersey. Astana's going to be able to sit back and go, okay, we get a little break. And although tomorrow, I don't think there's any break, but it was a very exciting stage, very aggressive from the start. So, but for a Frenchman to take the yellow jersey, actually, when you think about it, he's taking it today. Tomorrow's 14 Juillet, 14th of July, which is the national holiday. It's our 4th of July for France, and it's a big day for France.
Greg, we see here the pictures of the race with Tony really being in the first breakaway from the very beginning. 5 Europe car riders. Today the French really wanted to perform well, and then doing the job, because together with Michael Cherel, he made the effort on the downhill with one goal in his mind, getting that yellow jersey.
Well, all these teams actually, they all are, you watch Eurocar this morning, they're, talking about a strategy to get a stage victory, but when Tony actually knows exactly where he sits, he knows how far he is behind Vinokurov's team. I keep saying Vinokurov, Nibley's team, oh my God. So he's, they're all calculating, they're all talking on the radios, and the hope is that they would, it was very smart of Astana to let this happen, and the pressure's taken off. But it's a big day for Lotto. It's a big day for Tony Galopin. A very strong family history in cycling. Alain Galopin, it's a very well-known professionals in pro cycling in France.
Yeah, because Tony Galopin is the nephew of Alain Galopin, who is one of the sport directors of the Track Factory team. Now, Alain Galopin Tony Galopin is having a 1:36 seconds over Vincenzo Nibali. He gets the yellow jersey, and that's a complete new Tour de France that starts for the Lotto Belisol team. They already won a stage with Andrea Greipel. Mark Wouters, the sport director, is definitely delighted on the finish line here in Mulhouse.
Greg, Stefano, we are around the Lotto Belisol team bus. Great atmosphere here for sure. Tomorrow morning, in front of the bus, we will see a yellow lion with the yellow jersey of Tony Galopin. It's a great day, no?
Yeah, tomorrow going to be a really great day for us team, because a Frenchman is in a yellow jersey, so it's amazing.
It's not only a Frenchman; it's a Lotto Belisol rider, and it's surprising, no? Is this surprise you?
Not really, because we had a plan this morning, and Tony was the man. He must go in the breakaway, and he did.
Tony made me a confession this morning. I dreamed all the night about this yellow jersey, so the dream come true now.
Yeah, it's a dream for everybody for riding in a yellow jersey, and for a Frenchman in a yellow jersey in 14 Juillet, it's unbelievable.
But the most important is just starting, because tomorrow the finish will be very, very hard, very tough.
Yeah, it's a really hard stage tomorrow, but we have the yellow jersey in that day, and the rest we shall see.
Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations.
Mark Wouters is looking already at tomorrow's stage. Who cares tomorrow? Today they have the jersey. A team getting the jersey, the yellow jersey on Tour de France, that's already a success for a team.
Oh yeah, it makes a rider's career, but it's also where all the focus is from the publicity point of view. It is a commercial sport, and having the yellow jersey, especially when you're French, is a huge day of celebration. So for any team to get the yellow jersey, any rider to have it, it is a career highlight. And I think there's something about wearing yellow. There's something special, and I said it can play games on your head. You know, you could, if you're defending it, some riders crack under it, some guys thrive on it. But it is a one-day deal. I mean, I don't think Tony's going to be a factor going down in the race, but he'll get it for tomorrow, and maybe he'll, try as long as he can to stay with the front. Actually, I look at it, if they're going to control anything, they'd have to get through this race. But it does psychologically take pressure off of Astana. Now they're going to sit back. But I think that they're still going to have to control the race if there's anybody else. And a lot of climbs tomorrow. If any guys, a little bit better chance overall that attack, they're still going to have to do some work. I'm talking Astana and Tinkoff.
Now, there are two happy Galopins on the Tour de France today. One, of course, is Tony, who is wearing the yellow jersey. The other one is his uncle, Alain Galopin. He's the director of the Track Factory team, but he's definitely happy that Tony, his nephew, get the jersey today here in Mulhouse.
Greg, Stefano, we are around Trek bus, but pourtant, il n'y a rien eu. Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé aujourd'hui? Pourquoi tout le monde vient vous voir?
Nothing's happened to Trek. Why has everyone come to see you? It's a little bit strange. Cancellara only came second today, so usually people only come to me when we win. But I've always said that to other journalists that I think that it's still a very emotional day. For my family, it's huge, and Tony going into yellow, I don't really have any words for it. It's just an incredible thing for all of our families. We've been involved in cycling for 50 years, and everywhere you look, there's been a Galopin involved in races, and be it youth races or professional races, amateur races. So biking is our life, and so for us this is extraordinary to get here. Mulhouse, it's the last victory of Laurent Fignon as well in 1992, so it's very, very historic. Well, you were the soigneur of Laurent Fignon. Yes. At the end of this stage, I shed a tear today, because to see Tony going into yellow on the same place that Laurent Fignon, it's a bit too much.
Tout à fait normal. En plus, vous aimez le cyclisme et vous aimez aussi les symboles. Et demain, ce sera le 14 juillet. Un galopin en jaune, un 14 juillet selon en France. Et ce sera évidemment une.
You love cycling and you love symbolism as well. How important is it that a French rider is in the yellow jersey for 14 juillet? You're going to be very proud tomorrow. I think I have the emotion right now, but I think I'll be able to channel my emotion slightly better tomorrow. I think you're going to have to stop asking me any more questions, because I need to stay with my team and handle my emotions.
A very emotional Alain Galopin here on the finish line in Mulhouse. It's true, everybody's going to see him, but Fabio Cancellara was second. But of course, his nephew is wearing the yellow jersey tonight, and it's an important family affair for the Galopins.
I've raced against many Galopins in the 80s, and I know that Alain was really Laurent's best friend, and Laurent Fignon was my teammate, and it was a big loss for cycling, and you can see the emotions. It's really great to see that, though. It's a family. There's a lot of actually ex-pros or sons of racing right now. Nicholas Roche, you've got all these riders, and but the Galopins really are. They're part of French cycling history, and my career was spent with multiple Galopins, working and racing during my career. But it's great to see the excitement and the joy that comes from taking the yellow jersey. I mean, yellow jersey, man, it's everything.
So let's go and listen to the new yellow jersey of the Tour de France. That's Frenchman Tony Galopin.
C'est indescriptible, franchement.
Well, it's indescribable. Even if I thought about it for a few days, I thought I could do something, but I still didn't think that it was going to happen, so it's unbelievable. My uncle's here, my parents are here, it's just amazing, and so this yellow jersey is a complete dream come true. I've never imagined taking the yellow jersey before in my life, really. When I was 13, I was dropped on every race that I used to compete in, and so imagining picking up the yellow jersey then, well, you just can't do it.
qu'il fallait être dans le bon groupe. Ça s'est passé comme dans un rêve.
You knew this morning that you had to be in a good group, and if that happened, that you stood a chance. Yeah, a tough dream though, because I had to get into that group, and I just managed to do so. And after 40-50 kilometers, we managed to get into an escape, and then, well, it just fell into place. Well, tomorrow, 14 juillet, and you have the yellow jersey. How amazing is that? Oh, it's going to be huge. It's going to be a very hard stage, but I feel that it's going to be a very proud day for me to wear the yellow jersey. It's going to be extraordinary. I'm going to try. I have nothing to lose.
Tony Galopin wearing the yellow jersey on July 14th, the National Day for the French. Yellow jersey on the 14th of July. What a day tomorrow for Tony Galopin.
It is. I had a very good teammate, Vincent Barteau, who won a stage in 1984, held it on for about 10 days. It made his career. Then he won the 14 juillet, 14th of July in 1989 when I won my second Tour de France. And he dedicated that victory to me, and which was unbelievable. But you know, it's an incredible, important part of the Tour de France is the summer. It's 14th of July. Everybody's on vacation. All the eyes are on the Tour de France, and for a French rider, and especially a Galopin family rider, to take the yellow jersey, it's a good way to go in tomorrow. Although tomorrow's going to be battle. It's going to be. It might last only one day, but you can't take that back. Can't take a yellow jersey back.
Now, Tony Galopin wears the yellow jersey tomorrow, and Vincenzo Nibali loses the yellow jersey today, but maybe that was something in the plans of Martinelli and Astana team.
Oh yeah, actually it was a very good move. Actually, I wouldn't even have been riding that much. I would have let him even take a little bit more time out, because it forces the other teams actually, they'll look at Tony as a threat to their potential overall place, and you get other teams to kind of share the workload. So they only have about a minute and a half lead. They could afford to let him go, get another 2 or 3 minutes out in front. So it's all kind of a team strategy, and it's about dosing your efforts. And tomorrow is going to be a very hard effort. So, but for a pro like this, even the Astana team riding like this, it's really not a huge effort. It was a good tailwind crosswind, so the effort relative to their positioning in the back of the peloton was not incredibly difficult for them to do.
Now, it's going to be interesting tomorrow. Vincenzo Nibali is 134 adrift from Tony Galopin. What do you think it's going to be the strategy of the GC teams on tomorrow's stage? It's going to be a very tough stage, going from Mulhouse to La Planche de Belleville for 161 kilometers with this very tough last climb. There are going to be 6 climbs before that final one. What kind of stage are we going to watch tomorrow, Greg?
I'd say it's going to be a stage like today. There's going to be lower GC riders. They're going to be attacking. They're going to take a chance of getting a long breakaway, and the race will be still watched from behind. I think it'll be Tinkoff, Astana will be, they'll be watching each other, and there's a chance that you can get a breakaway that takes a nice big lead in front of the peloton, but the race still will be in the back, and it'll be obviously it's going to be Contador and Nibali really watching each other, and I would say that Nibali is going to have to be pretty careful with Contador. He's in great shape, and I think tomorrow on Planche de Belleville he's going to make a huge effort to really test Nibali, and we're going to see really where everybody sits on the overall GC. Right now we're kind of guessing where everybody stands. Nothing's really been incredibly difficult, and tomorrow's stage is a very, very difficult stage. And I think we'll see the potential Tour de France winner coming out of that top 3 GC.
That's very promising and exciting stage for tomorrow to live live on our channel on Eurosport. Will be more of LeMond on Tour just before the stage, and then the analysis of Greg LeMond after the stage. It's going to be the 14th of July. We're going to have a French yellow jersey. What a day tomorrow. That's all for the moment. Greg, enjoy your evening.
I'm looking forward to the stage tomorrow and the unbelievable crowds that'll be on the last climb, so it'll be a good day.
We'll be there. Make sure you'll be there. Enjoy the Tour de France only and exclusively on Eurosport. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.
That's right. Do join us tomorrow for stage 10, Mulhouse to La Planche des Belles Filles, 161.5 kilometers. It includes 4 Category 1 climbs.